NBA, Demon God Pangu dominates basketball Immortal Myth. Episode 81, Jordan Century Pull Bar Blood Cap? Finger shake plus throat slit. As far as the current Wizards team is concerned, in addition to Michael Jordan, only the mid-range king Richard Hamilton can take the shot. As for Retree, who was traded from the 76ers, his form has slipped this season and is far from meeting fans' expectations. Whenever he watches this product play, the general manager of the Wizards has a heartache. But Van Retrieve can play in the 76ers, but now he is less and less good. The more Ratlev pulls across, the greater the loss from this than the trade. The more the fans' hearts hurt. The Wizards also played 3 games since the start of the new season, with Retrieve averaging less than 10 points per game. However, the general manager of the Wizards team exchanged Jiang Pan for such a color, which anyone who looks at it will feel painful. This is a rare example of a good hand to play. The Wizards wasted their best time to rise, and after missing out on Jiang Pan, they are still a fish-belly team. Since the start of the competition, 3 consecutive defeats are the best proof of this. If the general manager of the Wizards had not been hot-headed but left Jiang Pan behind, perhaps it would have been the Wizards who had won 3 in a row. Just imagine, the combination of Jordan plus Jiang Pan plus Hamilton, not to mention the combination of Biao, okay, but that's definitely pretty tough, too. After both sides have taken their respective positions, the ball is jumped in the middle circle. Jiang Pan and Leitner compete for the ball. The referee threw the ball high, and Jiang Pan jumped and easily took the attacking power. The familiar opening struck again, Jiang Pan rushed straight to the basket, and Iverson sent a precise pass. Boom. A huge explosion sounded, and the empty connection buckle was staged. Still a familiar opening, or a familiar taste. The first goal of the opening game was again an aerial connection from the AJ combination. At the commentary table, Kenny Smith explained seriously, "Today's game is very interesting, a pair against AJ, who will be better?" Barkley is looking forward to whether Jordan will play his peak numbers today, and the Wizards send out the baseline ball. Richard Hamilton dribbled the ball through the halftime and then passed it directly into Jordan's hands. Michael Jordan looked fierce and showed full fighting intent. He came to the weak side and singled out Lagable one-on-one. Jordan waved his hand, signaling his teammates to pull away. Seeing Michael Jordan's sharp look, Lagable was a little panicked in his heart. This is the aura of the god of basketball, although he is close to 40 years old. But he is the god of basketball after all. Although Raja Bell is a prickly character, he is still more jealous when facing Jordan. Facing Lagabell's defense, Jordan directly launched an attack without saying a word. His breakthrough speed is much worse than when he was at his peak, but the victory is experienced, and Jordan's single skills are absolutely epic. Even without the advantage in speed, he can tease his opponents with rhythm changes. Lagable opened his arms and blocked Jordan's breakthrough route. He defended seriously, but still could not stop Jordan's attack. I saw Jordan shake 2 times in a row, and then suddenly a disguise, deliberately using his body to lean on Raja Bell, and turning around and jumping in the confrontation. Jordan's shot was so sudden that Raja Bell was not ready to interfere, and by the time he reacted, Jordan had already finished shooting. The basketball made a graceful arc in the air, and then fell accurately into the basket. Brush. The wonderful sound of wiping the net sounded, and the basketball hit hollow. The corners of Jiang Pan's mouth couldn't help but raise a curve. It seems that Jordan came to the stadium early this morning to warm up. It still has a role. Tonight he seems to really be on firepower. Jiang Pan also wants to see Michael Jordan perform like this, because only then will this game become interesting. What a ball. Michael's first mid-range shot was hit, which was a great start to tonight's race. It seems that in the face of a young talent like Jiang, the fighting intent in Michael's heart has also been stimulated. Kenny Smith looked excited and said, "Kenny, how many points do you think he can get tonight?" Barkley said with interest. Kenny Smith really thought about this question before the game, and he immediately replied, "I think as long as he keeps his touch, he may get 40+ points, but in the end, the 76ers will win." The ball returned to the 76ers, and in the second round, they fell straight into positional attack. Jiang Pan stuck on the inside, and Iverson delivered the ball to his hand. After receiving the ball, Jiang Pan sat down on Leitner and directly staged the trilogy: catch, top, snap, 4-2. Easy as a probe. Leitner couldn't withstand the power of Jiang Pan on the inside, so he could only watch him complete the dunk under the basket. "Give me the ball." Jordan simply took the baseline ball directly, pushed forward with the ball himself, and faced Raja Bell again. Hamilton made a cover for him, helping Jordan travel to the free throw line and once again hit a mid-range jumper. 6-4. The nets are overflowed, and this one hit the same shot. In the following round, Jiang Pan continued to complete the dunk easily under the basket, and Jordan made his most classic backward jumper. Tonight's basket is as vast as the sea of stars in Jordan's eyes, and there are also backward jumpers, all 3 jumpers in the opening game. The scorer flashes. 6-6. Michael tonight takes us back to the Bulls dynasty days, and that's what the basketball gods should play. In the first 3 rounds, Michael and Jiang entered the pairing mode. In these 3 rounds, Jordan and Jiang Pan were not directly aligned, but both of them make the most of their abilities. The crowd at the home of the Wizards also watched and exclaimed. Today, there are many fans wearing Jiang Pan jerseys in the stadium, who are in a rivalry with the home fans of the Wizards. When the Wizards attacked, the shouts of Michael Jordan could be heard in the stadium. When When the 76ers attack, the exclusive slogan of Jiang Pan will sound in the stadium. Charles, which of them will strike iron first? Kenny Smith is also interested, and now both of them are shooting 1%. Do you still need to ask? It's hard to say. Even if Michael is in good shape, he is only an outside player, and it is not fair to him to compare the shooting percentage with an inside player. Although Barkley did not say it explicitly, the meaning of his words is already obvious. In his opinion, Jordan will be the first to strike iron, and the truth is exactly what he said. In the next round, the 76ers directly played a fast attack. Jiang Pan, Iverson double-pronged, and sent another air relay. The Wizards' offense, and Jordan, who feels hot, wants to strike while the iron is hot and continue his mid-range teaching. Raja Bell defended very hard, but Jordan's skills were too experienced, and he was still easy to tease him. Jordan shook Raja Bell away with a feint and immediately jumped out of his hand. However, at the moment he struck, Jiang Pan rushed over from the inside. Fly straight up, long arms raised to block Jordan. Seeing this, the old and spicy Jordan did not panic at all. He adjusted the arc of his shot very high, and successfully avoided the cover of Jiang Pan. Bang! The first sound of the game sounded. Although Jiang Pan did not block Jordan's shot, it still interfered with his shot to a large extent. In order to avoid Jiang Pan's cover, Jordan's shots are somewhat deformed, which can cause so much pressure on Jordan, which shows how terrifying Jiang Pan's defensive skills are. And all this was almost covered, and the basketball flew out almost against Jiang Pan's fingertips. After hearing the sound of iron strikes, Jordan couldn't help frowning slightly. He wanted to strike while the iron was hot, but now he really hit the iron. The powerful and unsolvable attack was finally ironclad, and it can be regarded as a breakthrough. Uncle Moo protected the backcourt rebound, and the 76ers quickly played a defensive counterattack. Jiang Pan and Iverson continued to attack, like two deadly sharp knives. Invincible. Boom. Another explosion sounded, and the whole basket was shivering/shaking. After completing this attack, Jiang Pan walked in front of Jordan. Old comrade, you are broken, but I am still strong/strong. This sentence immediately set off Jordan's anger. As we all know, in addition to his superb ball skills, he is also very accomplished in trash talk. Provoked by Jiang Pan, Jordan immediately turned back. Put away your self-righteous pride. When Lao Tzu crisscrossed the court, you were not yet born. In the next round, Jordan was not ready to hit the shot. Instead, he decided to kill the inside line and challenge Jiang Pan. He watched the game in Jiang Pan, and no one could go wild in the restricted area he guarded, but today he will break this curse. He wants to be the first to break through the defense of the Jiang Pan penalty area, just because of the light of the basketball god he carries on his back. Hamilton again hung up a cover for Jordan, who smoothly burst into the paint area. Here, once his tie-rod field. Tongue. After Jordan entered the box, he faced Jiang Pan head-on and glided and jumped directly. Lianpa is old, the action is still stretched. Jordan made a lever change in the air, trying to use this trick to trick Jiang Pan and score the ball. This used to be his specialty, and in that era of muscles, countless centers were reduced to the background. Woo! TNT commentatorial seats instantly erupted into an exclamation. Appeared. Air change levers. This is one of Michael's classic moves. Jordan's action is exactly the same as his famous aerial lever, the shot of right hand changing left hand. The fans stood up abruptly and stared intently at the moment. Snap. Immediately afterwards, the orange basketball flew out of the court in the eyes of the 20,000 spectators. Eyes pulled in. Who is not Jiang Pan? Jordan looked stunned. He never dreamed that Jiang Pan would completely anticipate his own shot and wait for him at the end. Oh my god. This time, the cap stunned all the fans. As strong as Jordan's first challenge, it was also ruthlessly sealed by Jiang Pan. I'll go. Jiang Pan's defense is really strong, even M can't. M is still old, the explosion is much slower. If it is at the peak, maybe this goal will be scored. Huh. That's not necessarily. Even at its peak, M's bounce may not have Jiang Chang, and the ability to stay in the air is not as good. Why score? I can't say that. This person is MJ, and there is nothing impossible in him. At this point, the fans were divided into two groups. There was a heated discussion around the topic of whether the peak Jordan could score in the penalty area, guarded by Jiang Pan. On the court, Jiang Pan shook his head at Jordan after completing the block. I thought you were an MVP period, and you couldn't do this battle early. Jordan immediately spewed out a trash sentence. Rookie, don't be proud. I have figured out your details, and I will blast you next. Before Jiang Pan could respond, Uncle Moo on the side shook his finger directly at Jordan. Shake your fingers. This is Uncle Moo's signature celebratory action, and it is also extremely provocative. Tonight, it's not just Jiang Pan who wants to take out Jordan, but all the players on the entire 76ers are making a strong announcement. The era that belonged to Jordan has completely passed, and now it is the era of Jiang Pan. The scene was suddenly filled with gunpowder, and the anger in Jordan's heart was completely ignited. The atmosphere of the audience also entered a climax because of Jordan's trash talk and Uncle Moo's finger shaking. Wrong, the game continues, because Jiang Pan found the ball off the court just now, so it is still the Wizards' possession. The Wizards send out a sideline ball. Once again given to Michael Jordan. Jordan still wanted to attack the inside, but the offensive time did not allow him to do so, and finally had to choose to shoot in the whistle. But at the moment he struck, Jiang Pan's figure flew out of the oblique thorn again. Snap. Another crisp sound. The second cap of the game. Jiang Pan was once again given to Michael Jordan. OMG. Another ruthless cap. This round, I let Jiang seal twice. In the commentary table, Kenny Smith immediately exclaimed, "After all, Jiang's defense is more powerful. Even Michael can't avoid the fate of being continuously blocked." Flying Pig Barkley echoed. Just now, Uncle Moo shook his finger at Jordan, and this time, Jiang Pan simply came to a self-created celebration action. He compared his right hand to a knife and then made a gesture of wiping Jordan's neck. Throat cut. This action is domineering and leaky, even stronger than Uncle Moo's shaking fingers. Buzz. As soon as this action came out, the fans fell into madness again. Episode 82. The answer shakes Jordan, and the River Plate leaps over Jordan. God of the Fall. Mr. General Manager, we seem to be unable to stand it. In the office of the Wizards management, the assistant to the general manager said with an embarrassed face. The general manager of the Wizards stared at the screen with stunned eyes, looking at Jiang Pan's unparalleled dominance on the field, and his heart had fallen into deep despair. In the opening stages of the game, Michael Jordan used his personal ability to score 3 goals in a row to help the Wizards bite the score. However, as Jiang Pan's defense became serious, Jordan's offensive shooting rate immediately showed a downward trend, and was blocked by Jiang Pan twice in a row, driven by Jiang Pan and Iverson. The 76ers can be described as more and more courageous, and the Wizards are powerless. The Wizards' general manager's face became more and more ugly, and he could already predict the outcome of the game and what would happen to him after the game. He took out pen and paper and began drafting a letter of resignation. Instead of waiting to be fired, it is better to write a resignation letter yourself, which is also decent. Bang. On the court, there was another sound of iron, which was Michael Jordan's 5th consecutive throw. Jiang Pan stuck in a position under the basket, easily collected the defensive rebound, and then directly put the ball into Iverson's hand. Iverson originally wanted to have a quick attack, but the opponent's retreat was very fast, and there was no chance to form a fast attack. Iverson dribbled the ball through the halftime and fell into the positional attack. Jordan, who had conceded 5 goals in a row, had been enraged and decided to take matters into his own sights on Iverson. As soon as Iverson saw that the defender in front of him was Jordan, his fighting spirit immediately soared. In the answer Iverson first entered the league, he had the courage to single out Jordan and successfully swung Jordan away, hitting the classic crossover plus mid-range shot. That goal has also become the most classic picture in Iverson's career, and until now, fans will think of Allen Iverson as a man who shakes God. And now, this scene is repeated. The fans at the scene also got up one after another, looking forward to the battle between the two. Outside the three-point line, Allen Iverson signaled his teammates to pull away and single out Jordan at this time. Here it comes. AI singles out MJ. The classic picture is going to be reproduced. It's just that today's MJ is no longer at his peak, and A is at his peak. Can M block the attack of AI? At the commentary table, Kenny Smith became serious. There are many highlights of this game, including Iverson versus Jordan, and this scene is perhaps the most exciting moment of the entire game. Don't dream, even if it's me now, I can prevent you. Jordan immediately spewed trash talk. Is it? Then here I am. However, Iverson did not say a word and directly attacked Jordan. In the face of Jordan's defense, the signature cross-pass crossover immediately came out in action. After a continuous crotch shake, followed by a false swing, Yang Zhuang broke through on the left to bring the ball to the right hand. The speed of changing direction is so fast that Jordan can't prevent it. Jordan was deceived by Iverson's shaking, coupled with the fact that his old legs could not keep up with Iverson's speed, so that he lost his center of gravity. Boom! Jordan slumped and sat on the ground. Oh my god, what do I see? What do I see? AI shook MJ. Kenny Smith suddenly held his head and exclaimed, "The footage of the historical classic has really reappeared, and the AI has shaken MJ. Back then, AI just shook God, and today's AI has shaken God." Flying Pigs Barkley's tone was equally excited. After shaking Jordan, Iverson rushed into the paint zone with the ball, but Jordan didn't give up. He quickly got up as fast as he could, and continued to catch up. Even if he was shaken, the pride of the basketball god did not allow him to give up. Iverson accelerated to the basket, and Jordan quickly got up to help defend into the inside, and at this moment, Jiang Pan rushed from the bottom corner of the left side, rushed out in the diagonal stab, and jumped with all his strength. At the same time, Jordan, who was chasing over, just came to the basket. Jiang Pan's tall figure actually leaped directly above Jordan's head, and when the River Pan crossed over Jordan's head, a basketball was also accurately guided. Iverson's pass accurately found the empty cut Jiang Pan. Bang kara! After Jiang Pan received the ball in the air, he smashed the ball into the basket with both hands. Quiescence. The audience fell into a deathly silence. It took 2 seconds before the scene erupted into a violent uproar and scream. Oh my god, oh my god. Kenny Smith and Charles Barkley instantly hugged their heads and shouted. The fans at the scene also fell into madness at this moment. Jiang. Although it was an away game, this round of Jiang Pan and Iverson's attack directly ignited the whole game. AJ combines 2 people. One shook God, one flew over God. Today's ball will definitely become an eternal classic in the history of the NBA. And for Jordan, today's game is undoubtedly a terrible disaster. How could he have suffered such humiliation? God, poor M. He was swayed by Arun and then leaped by the river. God will fall eventually, although it is difficult to accept, but we have to admit that now A is just an ordinary star-level player. I think M at this time may regret coming back, and if he doesn't choose to come back, this scene won't happen. It made his otherwise perfect career a little more flawed. Kenny Smith couldn't help but sigh. Shaken plus jumped. I've never seen Michael so humiliated. Barkley also smacked his tongue at this scene. At this moment, Michael is no longer the basketball god, rather, the god of the fallen. At this moment, many fans in front of the screen have also expressed their feelings. M is still old after all, although this is not his first comeback. But from the state of his body, this is far from his first comeback. M is no longer a god, he finally fell from the altar. AI and Jiang, one shook him and the other flew over him. Does this mean that they will replace the status of basketball gods in the future? I think this is very likely to happen. The combination of AI and Jiang, just called the A combination, this may be the will of God. Think of the scene where M used to kill all sides on the court, and then look at his twilight appearance now. It's really the years that are not spared. Even God can't resist the erosion of the years. This ball, I would like to call the turn of the times. The Celestial Empire on the other side of the ocean, CTV5 live broadcast room. Jiang Pan has left the god of basketball, and I think this is a kind of inheritance of the times. This leap may increase Jiang Pan's influence a lot. If he keeps playing like this, he will definitely become the new basketball god. Zhang Reason's tone was extremely excited. He doesn't care about Jordan's face. Lao Tzu is a fan of iron and iron. His mind is still constantly recalling the picture of Jiang Pan flying over Jordan just now, which is simply shocking. When I saw Iverson throw the ball into the air, I had a hunch that something was going to happen next, but I didn't expect it to be such a shocking scene. Leaping basketball god, Jiang Pan is the only one who has done this. In the hearts of the fans of the Celestial Empire, maybe Jiang Pan is the new basketball god. Sukun also echoed, his expression was also excited. In front of the TV, the fans of the Celestial Empire who were watching the game were all in a frenzy. This is the demon god Jiang Pan. Brother Pan is domineering. From now on, you will be the man who leaps over the gods. This is cool. Flew over Jordan. It turns out that the god of basketball can also be leapfrogged. What should the person who flew over the god of basketball be called? Basketball god? Those media editors of the Celestial Empire also put forward their pens to draft copywriting. What is big news? This is big news. It doesn't get much more eye-catching. Just imagine the fans who missed the game and would definitely feel sorry to see such news after the game. It is difficult for such a shot to appear a second time, and they want to see it only through replay. The camera returns to the game site. Michael Jordan stood in place with a dull expression. The scene just now completely shocked him. The 4 large screens above the arena are still playing back the attack screen of the round just now. Jordan couldn't help but glance up. First he saw himself being shaken down by Iverson, and then he watched Jiang Pan fly above his head. All this seems to be a nightmare. The voices of the fans on the sidelines were like the grasp of the devil, as if they were going to drag him into the abyss of the devil. He even fell into deep self-doubt, and this comeback may be his biggest mistake. The god of basketball? But that's it. In Jordan's ears, a voice sounded. The source of that sound was Jiang Pan thought that Jordan would continue to spray back, but this time, Jordan just glanced at it, and then silently retreated. When Barkley saw this scene, he couldn't help frowning. M's retreat may represent the end of the era. The moment you turn around, an era is gone. If in the past, Jordan would have squirted against his opponent, but now he is not doing so. The game continues, but the difference between the two teams is getting bigger and bigger. The first quarter of the game is over. 3-6-2-2. The 14-point difference made the Wizards desperate. In this quarter, Jiang Pan personally scored 19 points, 12 rebounds, and 5 blocks. On the other side, Michael Jordan had 8 points and 2 assists. Except for the opening few goals, Jordan's subsequent shots were all ironed, and before the game began, the Wizards put all their hopes on Jordan. However, Jordan, who is close to 40 years old, can no longer take on this responsibility. During the intersection, the camera was given to the bench on the sidelines. On the bench of the 76ers, the players burst into laughter. Allen Iverson hugged Jiang Pan's thigh and said, "This leg is so thick. It's so secure." Mutombo also walked over and patted Jiang Pan's thigh. "It's that these legs flew over M. Shao. I think after this game, you should buy an insurance for your legs." Coach Buleng also smiled and said, "From now on, you are our basketball god." Looking at everyone's reaction, Jiang Pan was speechless. In the eyes of everyone, he is now the thickest thigh of the 76ers. There are even some Philadelphia fans who believe that this team should no longer be surnamed Iverson, but should be surnamed Jiang. On the other side, on the bench of the Wizards, head coach Collins looked at these players under him, and his heart was helpless. He couldn't help but turn his head to look at Jiang Pan on the bench of the 76ers, and felt a pang of heartache. If the stupid general manager had not traded Jiang Pan, then the person who is coaching Jiang Pan now should be him. Michael Jordan, who played the first quarter, sat on the bench panting, his sweat constantly gushing out of his body, and he couldn't wipe it away. It can be seen that he is already very tired. He has not played the whole quarter like today for a long time, and there is a huge problem with his physical fitness. "Can you still fight?" Head coach Collins asked with concern. Michael Jordan raised his head. His eyes were still full of fighting spirit, which was engraved in his bones and did not admit defeat. Jordan wanted to keep playing, but his body gave him a warning signal. Jordan hesitated for a moment, then shook his head. "I need to rest for a while." Collins nodded. "I see that we have no hope for this game, so why don't we get on it?" As soon as this remark came out, Jordan immediately refuted. This is just the first quarter. We still have a chance. I just need to rest for a while. I can continue to play. Jordan's credo is, never say die. It's acceptable to lose, but he definitely doesn't accept surrender without a fight. He led the Bulls and Jazz to meet in the finals, and in the Tianwang Mountain of the two teams, Jordan unfortunately got the flu. Even though his body had a fever close to 40 degrees, he still insisted on playing the game and scored 38 points to lead the Bulls to win Tianwang Mountain. Now, the Wizards are only 14 points behind, and he is just physically exhausted, and it is impossible to get him to throw in the towel. Let him admit that this era no longer belongs to him, and he can promise. But let him just give up this game. He can't. Even if he loses in the end, he must be standing on the court, and he is willing to bet on the glory of the god of basketball. Soon, the intersection break ended and the second quarter of the game began. Early in the second quarter, Jordan chose to rest, which made the already weak Wizards more difficult. Jordan sat on the bench, looking at Jiang Pan's dominance at both ends of the offensive and defensive ends of the field, and suddenly remembered himself in his mind. A few years ago, he was just like Jiang Pan now, galloping across the court with great spirits. However, Jiang Pan's current performance seems to be even crazier than he was at the beginning. If Jiang Pan had also played in the 80s and 90s, maybe he would have become the god of basketball. Less than 3 minutes into the second quarter, the gap between the two teams had been stretched to 20 points. Jordan on the bench couldn't sit still. He immediately took off his training clothes and got ready to play. With his status, whenever he wants to play, the manager must also listen to him. Taking advantage of a dead ball opportunity, Michael Jordan is replaced. Counting the rest time, he only rested for about 5 minutes, and his physical fitness only recovered slightly. Jordan's first goal on the pitch was a backward jumper to help the team stop the bleeding temporarily. But for the Wizards, this is just a drop in the bucket. Over the next few rounds, when the 76ers' defensive intensity came up, Jordan couldn't score easily, and the difference between the two teams has gone to 30 points. You can still see his unyielding side from M's body, but now he no longer has the ability to turn the tide. This era no longer belongs to MJ, but to AJ. Seeing Jordan still working the field, the commentators were a little unbearable. Stop, Michael, it's all Jiang Pan outside. Episode 83. Bestow on this prosperous era 10 consecutive crowns. Philadelphia bodyguard Arteist. The game time kept passing, and the difference between the two sides had reached 30 points. By the end of the second quarter, the game had lost its suspense. Beep. The final whistle blows. The game is over. 1-2-2-9-1. Following the previous game, Jiang Pan continued to clock in for 2 quarters. In the half game, he chipped in 39 points, rebounds, and 7 blocks for quasi-triple doubles. Such data is not new to him, and now all fans want to know what kind of data will be cut down by letting Jiang Pan play the whole game. But unfortunately there has never been such a chance, because so far, no team has been worthy of Jiang Pan's full game. At the moment of the whistle, Jordan crouched on the ground panting, looking at the difference of more than 30 points. He fell silent. Although the game lost its suspense early, he fought until the last moment. But his own era is a thing of the past. The old king abdicates and the new king ascends the throne. Jordan's sweat continued to fall down his cheeks, and he sighed helplessly. At the end of the game, he faded his sharp look, but a soft smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. In his opinion, Jiang Pan will become the J-pillar of the NBA in the future and continue to promote the development of the NBA. He couldn't help but glance at Jiang Pan a few more times, and in addition to being relieved, he regretted it a little. In the draft, if he had been more assertive and persuaded management to keep Jiang Pan, perhaps he would have had a chance to win the 7th career title. Now, it's all in vain. And immediately after the game, the Wizards management also sent a message. A letter of resignation was left in the Wizards general manager's office, and the general manager himself had already left the place. But no one would sympathize with him, and it happened entirely because of his own death. The stupid decision in the draft made him lose his job. On the sidelines, TNT reporters conducted an interview with Michael Jordan after the game. MJ, it's a pity that you lost this game. Early in the first quarter, you again showed the fans a strong individual ability, hitting 3 shots in a row. But after Jiang's targeted defense of you, your shooting percentage dropped sharply. Do you have anything to say about that? Jordan took a deep 450 breath and responded, I know that when I see a scene like that, a lot of fans will question it, thinking that it is not my level. Indeed, it was hard for me to believe at first that Jiang could cover me continuously. But if you think about it, I'm close to 40 years old, not to mention that he has the same athletic talent as me in the same position, and it's normal for him to be able to block me. Although Michael is very unconvinced, he can only compromise. Jordan counted his shoulders and smiled weakly. His answer first affirmed Jiang Pan's strength. Then he sighed that his years were not spared, which made people sigh. In the first section of the game, there is also an impressive picture. That is, the AI shakes you down, and then you are left by the river. A lot of fans think it's the biggest stain on your career. What do you think? The reporter continued to ask. Faced with this problem, Jordan pondered for a while, and then slowly said, after all, it is necessary to pay back when you come out to mix, and before I let too many opponents serve as the background board of Lao Tzu. This time Lao Tzu also acted once. It may be humiliating for the players, but from another point of view, I think I've made a big contribution. There is no doubt that that round will become a classic, but if I were replaced by another player, it would not have achieved that effect. It's to make the background board. Lao Tzu also has to do the ceiling gear. So think about it this way, Lao Tzu is still very great, haha. The reporter thought that mentioning this issue would anger Jordan, but he didn't expect that Jordan not only did not get angry, but amused himself. Or is it the first time to hear yourself as a background, said such a fresh and vulgar old man. Xiao, is your face artificial? It's just steel. I have to say that Jordan has changed a lot compared to what he was back then, especially in terms of personality, and he now occasionally jokes. Actually, if it weren't for that deal, you might have been able to play with Jiang. But now, Jiang has been traded to the Philadelphia 76ers and formed a terrible duo with AI. Do you think they can make it? The reporter asked again. You are right, missing Jiang Pan will become my biggest legacy. Now that the AI has his Shaquille, they were a finals-level team last season, and this season they are bound to take revenge. I can boldly predict that this year's finals will be the Philadelphia 76ers versus Los Angeles Lakers. However, the difficulty faced by the water team in this year's finals is much more difficult than last season. Speaking of this, Jordan paused slightly, and a trace of loneliness flashed under his eyes. Then, he continued, if you go back to the early 90s, give me a River Plate. We will return this prosperous era with a 10-in-a-row crown. 10 consecutive championships? Jordan's last words shocked the reporter. Give me a Jiang Pan, and give this era a 10-year championship. In the visiting team's locker room, the Philadelphia 76ers, who won the game, celebrated a 4-game winning streak since the start of the game, which is a wonderful feeling. Originally, Coach Boulang was still worried about the compatibility between Iverson and Jiang Pan, and how long it would take for the team to run in. However, judging from the 4 games of the new season, all the players seemed to be seamless. During the game, each player was able to find their position exactly, and it was completely impossible to see that this was a newly formed team. Coach, I think we can set a small goal and win 1 consecutive victory in the new season, Raja Bell said excitedly. Iverson shook his head. Laga, your vision is inevitably too short-sighted. Since it is a small goal, then why not 20 consecutive victories? Do you dare to think a little more, such as 34 consecutive wins? Jiang Pan's words immediately attracted everyone's attention. As we all know, the longest winning streak in NBA history is the 33-game winning streak set by the Los Angeles Lakers. The strength of that Lakers team is extremely terrifying. With 3 stars, the ancient beast Wilt Chamberlain, the logo man Jerry West and Gail Goodrich. Today's 76ers, although very strong, do not seem to be as good as the Lakers in terms of roster. Jiang, are you serious? It's just for you to set a small goal, not the ultimate goal, Iverson said a little speechlessly. Jiang Pan shrugged indifferently. I'm talking about small goals. How? None of you have faith? Are you kidding? A 34-game winning streak is just a small goal, but what about the ultimate goal? Yes, of course there is. As long as you have faith, we're fine, Uncle Mu said with a smile. In fact, he answered casually, and did not take Jiang Pan's words seriously. After all, young people are always a little frivolous. Uncle Mu believes that with their current strength and momentum, there is still a certain chance to win 2 consecutive victories, but 34 consecutive wins, it is still too early to say. The team is now on a 4-game winning streak, which is just a fraction of a 34-game winning streak, and it's a bit far from achieving that goal. After a brief rinse, everyone attended the post-match press conference with the head coach. At the press conference, reporters had been waiting for a long time. When Jiang Pan's figure appeared, the sound of the shutter pressing continued to sound. For such a scene, Jiang Pan is also used to it. Now he is the darling of the major sports media, and in terms of popularity, even the K group is now compared to himself. Since the new season, there have been the most reports about him, and the most views, and it is the OK combination after him. Coach Boulang, congratulations on continuing to maintain your 100% winning rate. This is your 4th consecutive win. How long do you think you can continue this trend? Unexpectedly, the reporter's first question was about the winning streak. Mike Broang laughed. To be honest, we discussed this topic just now when we were in the dressing room, and we also set a small goal for this. Saying this, Mike Boulang looked at Iverson on the left, and then looked at Jiang Pan on the right, and suddenly felt a little embarrassed. Because just now these two people said that it was a 20-game winning streak and the other said a 34-game winning streak. He didn't know which one to choose. Coach Boulang pondered for a moment, and then gave a very witty answer. Some people say we're aiming for 2 wins in a row. Others say we're going to break the longest winning streak in history. In my opinion, of course, the more the better. I even think 34 consecutive wins are few. If I could, I don't want to lose a single game. These words immediately caused a burst of laughter from the reporters on the scene. Even Jiang Pan glanced at Mike Boulang with some surprise, and he couldn't imagine that this guy's ambition was even greater than his own. Then, the reporter interviewed Iverson and Jiang Pan. You teamed up to present an extremely wonderful scene for the fans in today's game. Shake him and leap over him. Are you very excited at that time? You were the first to make him so disgraced. At the mention of this, Iverson immediately became excited. The moment I shook him, I really had some disbelief. Originally, I just wanted to break through him, but I didn't expect him to be shaken, which is also an unexpected gain. It is really not easy to shake him, even if he is close to 40 years old. When facing him, I still feel the defensive deterrent brought by the first man in basketball. but fortunately I am the stronger side and I successfully defeated him. Iverson couldn't hide the joy in his heart. You can tell how happy he is from his tone. In the past, he dangled Jordan and hit the classic shot. After that, he grew into the Alliance Generation ankle reaper. But all the while, he didn't have the perfect harvest of Jordan's footsteps, which is Iverson's life's regret. Huang Fei is just shaking after all. And today, he finally finished shaking. This goal means a lot to Allen Iverson. The reporter nodded with a smile, and then turned his gaze to Jiang Pan. Leap Michael? Jiang Pan smiled and shook his head. To be honest, I don't feel much about this matter. It may be difficult to shake M, but flying over him, it's as simple as I went to bed and slept. In my opinion, he's just a 198 centimeters average defender, no different from any other defender. In March Madness, I was flying past the opposing center, which was much more difficult than leaping M, because the inside players are taller. Jiang Pan's answer made him successfully pretend again. Compared with Iverson's answer, it is obvious that Jiang Pan's answer is better. In Iverson's heart, Jordan is undoubtedly a formidable opponent. In Jiang Pan's eyes, Jordan is just an ordinary player. Not long after the press conference, the official website of the 76ers sent out a message. The Philadelphia family welcomes a new member. Welcome Ron Artest. When Jiang Pan learned the news, he was a little surprised. In fact, Artest was able to join the 76ers. In fact, it was Jiang Pan's proposal after the game with the Bulls. Jiang Pan sent a message to the team's general manager. In fact, Jiang Pan only put forward a proposal. After all, he is not a person of the management, and there is no way to decide the selection of the management. Unexpectedly, the management gave itself face like this. Tonight, when the 76ers play against the Wizards, the trade is done. Although the management of the 76ers did not understand Jiang Pan's intentions, in order to satisfy this super rookie, he still got Artest. So far, Artest's mediation data has not been bright at all. The only thing he remembers is his attitude to the game, and other than that, he seems to be of nothing. And Yuan is still a prick. When the 76ers officially announced the news, Philadelphia fans were also puzzled. Ron Artest? Who is this guy? I don't know. I haven't heard of it. How did you trade such a player? Most Philadelphia fans have never heard of this name, and in their opinion, it is a little-known pawn. Some curious fans searched the internet for Artest's profile. When fans saw Artest's photo, they remembered who this guy really was. WOC. Isn't this the same player who had an elbow with Jiang in the last game? That's right. It was him. I remember that he was also smashed by Jiang Yi's elbow and broke the bridge of his nose, and I didn't expect to be traded here so quickly. Strange, just such a guy with no characteristics, what is worth a good deal? With his crude technique, he is completely a marginal role in the team. Come to see the water cooler? Is it to summon him as a bodyguard, locker room security guard? Many Philadelphia fans questioned the signing. Even if you want to strengthen the bench, at least find a reliable player, right? What can this guy bring? There is only one truth. This product was bought by 76 people for fighting. Episode 84. KOR Tai, Rob Arun's car. The library met Zhang Hanshao. Many fans are puzzled by Ron Artest's trade, and even Iverson and others do not understand the team's intentions. As far as they know, Ron Artest was bought out by the Bulls. As soon as the buyout was made, the 76ers completed the contract with him, and the person who facilitated the transaction was Jiang Pan. Although it seems that Ron Artest is indeed a modest player at the moment, otherwise the Bulls would not have bought him out. But as a crosser, Jiang Pan is well aware of this guy's ability, and the first 2 seasons of his career are just not used by the team, which makes him appear to be unknown. In fact, Artest still has a certain strength, especially he is full of energy. He will definitely be an excellent blue-collar player. Artest, at his peak, averaged a stable dozen points per game, and was very tough on the defensive end, and even used him as the core of the second team. There was no problem at all, which was Jiang Pan's purpose of proposing the management to sign him. The 76ers' second roster is weak now, and Artest's arrival can add some depth to the roster. As long as he is put to good use, he will definitely surprise the 76ers. At noon the next day, the 76ers flew back to Philadelphia. In the training hall, Artest came here early to train, and he still wears a mask on his face, and the bridge of his nose has been operated on, and his injuries have not recovered so quickly. I couldn't imagine that just one game apart, we would meet again. Artest, who was training, suddenly heard a familiar voice. When he looked back, he saw Jiang Pan staring at him. Perhaps he was too engaged in training just now that he didn't notice Jiang Pan's arrival. Facing this person who made himself pay for the bridge of his nose, Artest immediately showed a horizontal eyebrow and raised eyes. Don't think I signed with the team for your face. I will only assist the strong, don't get me wrong. The strong person I am talking about is not you, but AI. Hearing this, Jiang Pan couldn't help but laugh. This guy and Lagable, Bruce Bowen, are simply a stinky temper, and they all belong to that kind of dead duck with a hard mouth. It seems that you still don't believe me. How about we do it again? Artest waited for Jiang Pan's words, and he immediately replied, yes, but I don't just talk about playing. If you talk about ball skills, Artest has already served Jiang Pan. He knew that in front of Jiang Pan, it would be difficult for him to get even a point. And in the game that ended yesterday, even Michael Jordan was beaten like a bear by Jiang Pan, and his rough technique was not Jiang Pan's opponent at all. So in terms of football skills, Artest has identified Jiang Pan as a future superstar, but there is one more thing he is not convinced. That is, dry rack. I'm going to fight you. It's a fight. Artist raised his fist. Hearing these words, Jiang Pan was suddenly speechless. Feelings, this guy is a martial idiot? I suffered a loss on the court, and now I want to get it back. And now I have become teammates. How can I still be like an enemy? Are you sure? Jiang Pan raised his eyebrows. Whether it was compared to basketball or fighting, he was not afraid of Artist at all. In his opinion, although Artist is very capable of fighting, his physique and Artist are not at all of the same magnitude. If he really wants to fight, he has an absolute advantage in the body, not to mention, he still has the blessing of the strength of the system. Don't say one Artist, even if you give two more for nothing, Jiang Pan will not put him in his eyes. Stop talking nonsense. Hit if you want, hit with a ball. After all, this is a basketball court, not a boxing ring, so nominally, the two of them still have a basketball bullfight. But this is no ordinary bullfight. It's a regular basketball bullfight. That is, as long as the opponent is organized to score, any means can be used. To put it bluntly, this is an ancient Roman fighting battle in the name of basketball bullfighting. And Allen Iverson, who just stepped into the arena, inexplicably became the referee of this special game. As soon as the match began, the two began a fierce fist-to-flesh fight. All kinds of autumn wind sweeping legs, elbow bombing, left and right hooks, judo hugging, python throat locking. These tricks go far beyond the basketball range of actions to be staged. Iverson on the sidelines was dumbfounded. Where has he ever seen such an intense basketball fight game? And the intensity of this game far exceeds the intensity of the NBA in the last century. Seeing that his blood was boiling, he even wanted to go up and show his strength. The match lasted about 20 minutes. Standing on the field, only a tall figure remained. Exactly, Jiang Pan. And as his opponent, Ron Artest is already lying on the floor. The mask on his face also does not know where it flew. The eyes are closed, the limbs are weak, and the brain is free. At this time, Artest was not only aggravated by the injury to the bridge of the nose, the left and right shoulders are about to be removed, and the brain is estimated to have some symptoms of concussion. Most importantly, the position of the eye socket is as if it had been cushioned by a wasp. In the round just now, he directly received a frontal punch from Jiang Pan with his face. And then there is no then, just so straight up was knocked out. Moments later, paramedics hurried in and carried Artest out of the pitch on a stretcher. As for the victory or defeat of this game, there is no suspense at all. Jiang Pan scored a few goals and did not count. Anyway, Artai did not score a single goal. I haven't played before, and my punching is directly knocked out. This time, Artest was losing the heart. This special game made Iverson dumbfounded, and the scene of these two fights was really scary for him. Although Iverson is also a troublemaker and has fought, compared with these two, he is the same as a family. He looked at his body. If the intensity of the NBA game was like this, it is estimated that he would have been wasted long ago. Jiang, you are also too much. Although this kid is in front, but you are too heavy. After all, everyone will be teammates in the future. Iverson couldn't stand it. You don't understand. This kind of person owes a lesson. Thinks that he is invincible in the world. If he is not subdued today, he will not obey me in the future. Jiang Pan said while shaking his sandbag-sized fist. Then if you want to be the boss of the team, do you have to subdue me in this way? Iverson said suddenly. Huh? That's a good proposition. It's still early, or should we have a game now? Jiang Pan looked at Iverson and said that his thin body showed a malicious smile. Seeing this expression, Iverson immediately swallowed a mouthful of spit. Forget it. I'm afraid. Iverson immediately rejected Jiang Pan. Even a person as strong as Artest lay out of the arena, and his small body was still lively, and he was afraid that he would lie down if he couldn't catch a punch. Then you just admit defeat. As the price of losing, your car belongs to me today. Before Jiang Pan's words were finished, he took out the car keys from Iverson's pocket. Then he ran towards the parking lot with a puff of smoke. Iverson reacted and hurriedly chased over, but Jiang Pan's speed was comparable to him, and he couldn't catch up, and finally he could only watch Jiang Pan's driver's own car ride in the dust. Maid. Brigand, don't ask how Iverson got home later, just take a taxi. Jiang Pan, who returned to the team apartment, was going to play a few games, but when he thought about it, it was 2001, and there were no fun games. However, he suddenly thought that there seemed to be a library nearby, and he could go in and have nothing to do. Jiang Pan did not go home, but went directly to the library, intending to select a few books and prepare to take them back and read them. He sifted through it carefully, and then pulled a book from the shelf. There was just a gap left on the bookshelf. On the opposite side of this gap, there happened to be a girl. The moment he took down the book, Jiang Pan's gaze just passed through the gap. Just a glance, the gaze lingers. The two looked at each other through the gap in the bookshelves. Jiang Pan recognized this girl at a glance. It was the Celestial Empire singer who would be popular in the future, Angela. Zhang Hanxiao. Angela is her English name. At the moment of seeing Jiang Pan, Zhang Hanxiao's eyes flickered, and she seemed a little panicked, and she also recognized the man on the other side at a glance, the famous Jiang Pan, the first person in the basketball of the Celestial Empire. Zhang Hanxiao did not expect that she would meet Jiang Pan here in such a way. At that momentary heartbeat, there was an indescribable sense of wonder. Jiang Pan thought about it carefully. Zhang Hanxiao only signed a contract with an entertainment company in the Celestial Empire in 2002, and when she really became popular, it should be in 205. That said, she is not famous yet. You are the plate. Brother Pan? Zhang Hanxiao said in surprise. She is also a fan of Jiang Pan, and now in the Celestial Empire, many fans use this name for Jiang Pan. You are? Jiang Pan actually knows her name. He asked this completely on purpose. After all, now Zhang Hanxiao is not famous, Jiang Pan has been abroad, and he will not know her. I'm your fan. Seeing it, Zhang Hanxiao was so nervous that she even forgot to say her name. Why are you here? I didn't want to study abroad, right? The two simply sat down and chatted. Anyway, Jiang Pan has nothing to do now. Some is time. I'm here to relax, and by the way, see if there is an opportunity. Actually, I want to debut, but no record company in China is willing to sign me. Saying this, Zhang Hanxiao's expression was a little lonely. Career failure is her biggest trouble now. Jiang Pan also has an understanding of Zhang Hanxiao's career situation, and Zhang Hanxiao's debut prospects in the early stage are not perfect. Hearing these words, Jiang Pan couldn't help but have an idea in his heart. Do you want to be an entertainment company? What is the biggest benefit of the crosser? It is the ability to open the eyes of the sky and know all the plots. In 2001, Tang Luan had only debuted for a year and a half, and Lin Jiejuan, Zhang Hanxiao, and others had not yet debuted. Between 2001 and 2006, it was definitely the era of the rise of stars in the music industry, which was an excellent business opportunity for Jiang Pan. As a crosser, he must not miss such an opportunity. In Jiang Pan's opinion, these are all rich crabs, and he wants to be the one who eats crabs. Just do what he says. Jiang Pan made up his mind. Then start an entertainment company. Actually, your conditions are very good. Maybe if you can, I can provide you with a chance. Thinking of this, Jiang Pan said bluntly, really? That's great. Although this was Zhang Hanxiao's first time seeing Jiang Pan, she felt that Jiang Pan was a trustworthy person. After all, as an NBA player, there is still no need to talk about connections. Later, the two chatted a few more words, each left their contact information, and then left. The next day, Jiang Pan negotiated with agent Bill Duffy. Because it was his first time starting his own company, he didn't understand many things, and Bill Duffy became his best helper. Bill Duffy was stunned when he first heard that Jiang Pan was going to open an entertainment company, but under Jiang Pan's strong attitude, Bill Duffy had to agree. With the help of Bill Duffy, Jiang Pan successfully registered a company called the Demon God Entertainment Company. At the first time of the establishment of the company, Jiang Pan dialed Zhang Hanxiao's phone. Hanxiao, if you want, you will be the first singer in my company. What? What the? On the other end of the phone, Zhang Hanxiao was very excited. She was in her hands for a long time, and she didn't say a word. Jiang Pan's call was like a torch in the cold winter, sending warmth to Zhang Hanxiao. She originally thought that Jiang Pan was just a small sale of personal favors, but she didn't expect that the efficiency was so fast. Moreover, Jiang Pan's own entertainment company? It wasn't what she thought. Don't get too excited, don't hesitate. If you join, I will create an album for you immediately as your first album debut. I have already thought of the name of this album, just call it Gul Lola. Jiang Pan had already arranged everything and only waited for Zhang Hanxiao to nod. Yes. Of course I do. After a long time, an excited voice finally came from the other end of the phone. It sounds a little crying. Looking at Zhang Hanxiao, this is crying with joy for artists. The road to debut is really not easy, and since the new century, the competitiveness of the entertainment industry has become stronger and stronger. It's really not easy for newcomers to get ahead. Zhang Hanxiao himself did not expect that this trip to the United States was very rewarding. Not only met his idol in the library, but also signed a contract with Jiang Pan's entertainment company. More importantly, she is also the #1 employee of Jiang Pan Company, a proper veteran. In the afternoon, Zhang Hanxiao signed a contract with Jiang Pan. Jiang Pan did not break his word, and soon found a professional team and began to customize Garula's album for Zhang Hanxiao, which also made Zhang Hanxiao completely relieved. The establishment of an entertainment company by Jiang Pan soon spread. Many artists who planned to debut in the Celestial Empire were ready to move after learning the news. With Jiang Pan's current fame, the entertainment company he established does not need to worry about traffic at all, because Jiang Pan itself is a walking traffic. Now he attracts a lot of attention wherever he goes, and the artists under Jiang Pan will definitely be able to rub a wave of popularity. Newcomers want to debut. This entertainment company in Jiang Pan is definitely an ideal choice. You boy, aren't you earning enough money on the court? I also started an entertainment company. Do you want to consider signing me? In the 76ers training gym, Iverson said leisurely. Forget it, death is expensive. I can't afford to sign. I make a lot of money on the pitch, but who would be too much money? And one day I will be old and can't play all my life. So now I have to start using the funds in my hands wisely. Jiang Pan's business acumen is much better than Iverson's. Iverson only knows how to spend money lavishly now. Anyway, he can earn it, and he doesn't think about the future. It is precisely because of his character that led to his tragic situation after retiring. I see that you are idle, and with the money we earn now, we can't spend it in a few lifetimes. For Iverson's words, Jiang Pan does not dare to agree. As far as Iverson's expenses, once he does not play, it will not be long before there will be a funding crisis. Do you want to consider investing in one? Jiang Pan asked. He was also for Iverson's good. However, Iverson was not appreciative. Come on, I won't mix. It's better to prepare for the next game. Episode 85. And Boxing King Tyson about boxing. The opening game is a basketball. In the next game, the Philadelphia 76ers will face the Atlanta Hawks. The Hawks have quite a good quality, and they got this year's scout through a trade, Tyson Chandler. In the early games of the season, Chandler played well, averaging 15 plus 10 more per game and being quite efficient. In addition to Chandler, they also have Sharif Rahim, the star of the team, who is also an outstanding representative of the golden generation of '96. Especially this season, his personal data has reached the pinnacle, and he is a striker with good offensive and defensive skills. On the guard line, they have the Jets' Jason Terry, who is a quasi-all-star level and is the team's ideal second-in-command. In addition, there is a meritorious player from the Bulls dynasty, Tony Kukoc. Nazr Muhammad, who averaged double-doubles per game last season, is a powerful player. Now fans all over the net are looking forward to the showdown of Jiang Pan v Chandler. Although from the current performance and data of the two, Jiang Pan has the advantage, but Chandler is not good at scoring, but defending. His style on the pitch is very tough, especially on the defensive end, and he can limit the play of opposing interior players very well. So some fans think that maybe Chandler is the answer that can limit Jiang Pan. There is another very important reason. Tyson Chandler and Eddie Curry, Kwame Buelang are the three treasures of high school students in this year's NBA draft. Today, Eddie Curry and Kwame Buelang have fallen at the feet of Jiang Pan. He is the only one left among the three treasures. Do you say that Tyson Chandler can withstand the attack of Pangu today? Does this still need to be said? Who is Brother Pan? As far as the data he has typed now, what is a good MVP contender? A little Chandler. I can't say that. Judging from his current performance, he still has a certain strength, at least more powerful than the other two living treasures. No matter how powerful it is also a living treasure. What is there to be afraid of? It's not that I look down on Tanwaxiu. As long as he can insist on a game under Brother Pan, I will lose it. Exactly. Don't say it's a Chandler. Even if those three living treasures are added together, they are not my Brother Pan's opponents. Across the ocean, fans of the Celestial Empire have been talking about this topic for the past few days. Obviously, Jiang Pan is invincible in their hearts, and it is useless to come no matter who comes. The game will be played at the home stadium of the Atlanta Hawks. At this time, in the dressing room of the home team, all the players were around the coach and listening to the coach make tactical arrangements. But only one person was not among them, but ran to the side and started boxing. Tyson, what are you doing? Hawks coach Kruger discovered the situation and immediately questioned. All the players also looked at Chandler, and when they saw Chandler's actions, they were all confused. The first two games of the Philadelphia 76ers touched me a lot. The Ron Artest player gave me a certain inspiration. He showed me how to beat Jiang. Tyson Chandler raised his fist. If you want to beat him, you can't use basketball, but rely on your fists. As soon as these words came out, everyone was speechless for a while. Co-author Chandler is not here to play. It's for boxing, but that guy doesn't seem to be simple, and Ron Artest's end is a good example. You may not know when you just entered this league. Ron, this player has always been a prick, has a strong ability to fight, and has hardly suffered losses, except for the last confrontation with Jiang. Are you sure you really plan to go head-to-head with Jiang? Kruger said with some concern. Chandler nodded without hesitation. I have decided, in terms of ball skills, I may not be as good as him, but compared to fist, I have never been afraid of anyone. Chandler is very confident in his fists. He was born as a halfway boxer when he was young, and his name has the attribute bonus of Boxing King Tyson. To the boxing Pan, Tyson, why be afraid? Moments later, players from both sides came on the pitch and began their pre-match warm-ups. The players took to the court and each practiced shooting. Only Tyson Chandler was still stretching on the sidelines. Then, under the gaze of the fans in the stadium, he actually started his boxing warm-up. What the few #K. Charles, look, what is Tyson Chandler doing? Warm-up? It doesn't look like it's the first time I've seen such a warm-up. Kenny Smith looked at Chandler on the sidelines, a little confused. To be honest, he has been explaining the NBA for so long, and he has never seen such a scene. The warm-up time did not put aside that shot, and I actually practiced boxing, and that move is really presentable. Flying Pig Barkley was also scratching his head, and he couldn't understand what Chandler was doing. Maybe it's a new way to warm up. Only this explanation can say that it has passed. However, just when the two were puzzled, the reporter of TNT walked directly to Chandler and interviewed him. Originally, the reporter was going to interview Hawks star Sharif Rahim, but he immediately changed his mind when he saw Chandler on the sidelines. Tyson, you didn't go to the ring to warm up. Why did you practice boxing here? Tyson Chandler is so trained that he has not noticed the reporter next to him, and he is still seriously honing his boxing skills one by one. Seeing this, the reporter was a little embarrassed. He had to pat him gently, and Chandler noticed the presence of the reporter. Huh? What's up with you? Chandler didn't hear the reporter's question at all, and the reporter had to repeat it. Chandler heard the reporter's question and immediately replied, I'm just warming up. Basketball is not only a competition of ball skills, but also a battle of fists. There is no war in peacetime, and the fist is a weapon that belongs to real men to solve problems. Hearing this answer, the reporter immediately understood what he meant. It seems that this guy is bent on fighting Jiang Pan to the end. It seems that today's match will be very intense, but are you sure to beat him? The reporter continued to ask. Please don't ask such stupid questions. If I'm sure, why should I practice? yes. Jiang is an opponent worth mentioning, really comparable to boxing. I am worthy of him. Chandler's answer was still full of confidence. He believes that with his martial arts base, there are few opponents in the entire NBA. Later, the reporter came to Jiang Pan again. Jiang, just now I had an interview with Tyson. You should be careful in this year's competition. He said that he would burst you. Burst me? Jiang Pan was slightly surprised. Chandler was so confident? That's right. He just wants to blow you up. But he's not talking about basketball, it's about this. Saying that, the reporter raised his fist, and Jiang Pan immediately understood his words. Jiang Pan couldn't help but turn his head to look at the sidelines, and Chandler's gaze also happened to look at Jiang Pan. For eyes opposite, Jiang Pan saw a strong desire to fight from the other party's eyes. And the movements on Chandler's hands have not stopped, still where to punch, and he really looks like a boxer. It's not useful to see it, it's not me blowing, just his little flower fist embroidered legs, even Jiang's sweat hair can't be injured. Without waiting for Jiang Pan to speak, Ron Artest on the side rushed to say. When the reporter saw him, he couldn't help but frown. Isn't this guy with a broken nose bone? Why are the eye sockets still swollen now? And the corners of the mouth are blue. Ron, you are? The reporter asked. Nothing, a duel between men. Artest waved his hand and said, I lost. This is not a scar. This is an honor. Although defeated, Artest's hard-mouthed personality can't be changed, and he was beaten into despair by Jiang Pan and put gold on his face. In short, if that guy dares to lift up, then his end will be very tragic. At this time, across the ocean, in the CTV5 live broadcast room of the Celestial Empire, the biggest highlight of this match is the showdown between Jiang Pan and Chandler. In the pre-match interview just now, Chandler also said that this game will solve the problem with fists. It seems that he is menacing. Jiang Pan should be more careful. Zhang Reasonable said with some worry. In fact, there is no need to worry too much. If he really comes hard, I don't think Jiang Pan will suffer a loss. After all, in the previous game with the Bulls, even a character like Artest was smashed by Jiang Pan and broke the bridge of his nose. And according to the grapevine, after Artest signed with the 76ers, he also had a duel with Jiang Pan, and he was carried out of the arena. So I think that even if Chandler wants to do something to Jiang Pan, he has to weigh his strength. Yang Jian said leisurely. He wasn't too worried that Jiang Pan would suffer a loss. After all, Jiang Pan's strength was placed in front of the TV here, and the fans of the Celestial Empire were also talking about it. That Chandler is tired of living, right? Don't you know the strength of Brother Pan? I think he may want to end his career early. It's interesting, this guy is so powerful. I want to see what strength he has, so loud and shameful. A few minutes later, the season warm-up ended and the starting lineups of both sides were released. 76ers starters: point guard, Allen Iverson; quantile, Raga Bell; small forward, Bruce Bowen; power forward, Dikembe Mutombo; center, Jiang Pan; Hawks starter, point guard, Jason Terry; quantile, Sharif Rahim; small forward, Tony Kukoc; power forward, Nazr Muhammad; center, Tyson Chandler. Before going on the court, Jiang Pan said to Artest on the bench, Ron, you are optimistic off the court, I will teach you how to fight on the spot. As soon as these words came out, Artest was slightly stunned. When it comes to boxing, he's an expert in the NBA. No one had dared to say such a thing in front of him before. However, this sentence came out of Jiang Pan's mouth, and he accepted it gladly, because Jiang Pan did have such qualifications. He couldn't forget the fear he was prepared by Jiang Pan on the day he came to the 76ers report. Beep. With the referee's whistle, the game officially begins. The two sides stand in their respective positions and perform the middle circle jumping ball. Referee Jiang Pan versus Chandler threw the ball high. The two were similar in height and jumped at the same time, but Jiang Pan's starting height clearly beat the opponent, helping the team grab the first opportunity to attack. It looks like it will be a familiar opening again. I already know what is going to happen next. In the commentary table, Kenny Smith and Charles Barkley both sat and waited for the opening empty catch. However, this incomparably familiar scene did not happen. Jiang Pan suddenly slowed down after rushing into the inner line, and actually fell into the position to attack. In fact, he has completely left Chandler behind just now. As long as Iverson sends the ball out, Jiang Pan can complete 580% of the aerial relay. In fact, this was all discussed by Jiang Pan and Iverson before the game. Jiang Pan felt that since Chandler wanted to solve the problem with himself by boxing, he should be given a dismount in the opening scene. Jiang Pan stuck in a low position, and Iverson delivered the ball into his hand with a delicate hit. The other players quickly pulled away, creating one-on-one singles Chandler space for Jiang Pan. Roar. Jiang Pan actually gave up his signature opening air relay. It's about letting the game start with the expectations of the invited fans and match Tyson. Whether it is the champion or the flower exploration is better, let's wait and see. Kenny Smith looked forward to it. After receiving the ball, Jiang Pan sat down on Chandler with his back and directly gave him a slap in the face. Close to the mountain, stick to the mountain. A move of traditional Chinese art electricity, a move commonly used by large power tank-type warriors. Bang! A huge force surged in, and Chandler's chest tightened, wanting to hold on. But he did everything he could, and he couldn't stop this huge force. The tall body was directly knocked into the distance of more than 1 meter, and then Jiang Pan turned around and stepped out and jumped and dunked directly. Bang! 2-0. At this time, he was still 2 meters away from the basket, and there is no running assistance, which is equivalent to jumping and dunking in place. Seeing this scene, the fans at the scene were also stunned. Are you kidding? From such a far position, you just jumped and dunked on the spot? Seeing this, Chandler directly pounced. He raised his arms high and blocked Jiang Pan, preferring to pay for a foul rather than let Jiang Pan complete the dunk. I have to say that his style of play really has a bit of desperate three legs. In the next breath, Chandler's entire body crashed into Jiang Pan's body, but he was not able to block Jiang Pan's dunk more. Chandler only felt that his body was flying upside down in the air, and Jiang Pan smashed the ball into the basket with him. Boom. On the court, there was a loud noise, which was much louder than the usual dunk. It turned out that at the moment when Jiang Pan completed the buckle, only a bang is heard. The basketball rubbed on the rim and exploded directly. In the opening game, the basketball was directly detonated. Episode 86. Big Dipper God Fist vs 10,000 times Realm King Fist. Break Tyson's finger. The basketball exploded, and the audience was shocked. All the fans at the scene and in front of the TV widened their eyes and watched in disbelief as they saw what was happening in front of them. In the NBA for decades, they have seen the scene of dunking rebounds, but they have never seen anyone who can dunk basketball, and Jiang Pan is the first. OMG. OMG. Jiang Ko exploded the basketball. This power has surpassed the realm of humans. Jiang is not a human, he is a terrifying inner monster. On the commentary table, Kenny Smith exclaimed madly, and even said that Jiang Pan is not a person. This terrifying power, does Tyson Chandler still want to fist with Jiang? He probably doesn't even have the courage to punch, right? Flying Pig Charles Barkley also said with a look of horror. One by one, the Hawks home fans fell silent, and they felt a moment of fear when they remembered what Tyson Chandler said before the game. Such a terrifying force. If Chandler really fights Jiang Pan, I am afraid that he will not be killed by him. What kind of monster is this guy? How is it so powerful? I now seriously suspect that this body is inhabited by the soul of a monster. This is outrageous. How can anyone blow up a basketball? It can't be that there is a problem with the quality of this basketball. At this moment, fans are speculating wildly. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they would have thought it was a movie special effect, or maybe the basketball was passive. On the sidelines, those media reporters frantically pressed the shutter button, recording this terrifying moment, and today's hot headline was again available. Now, these sports media like to watch Jiang Pan matches. His outstanding strength is only one of the reasons. More importantly, in almost every game, Jiang Pan can create a hot topic. On the court, Tyson Chandler was directly stunned. He stood in place with a livid face, looking at the basketball that completely exploded on the ground, and his heart was extremely shocked. At the moment of the basketball explosion, he was the closest person. The moment the basketball exploded, it happened next to his ear. Now, his eardrums still hurt faintly. And, even more outrageously, Chandler's defensive action this time was large, but the referee did not blow a foul. In other words, the referee has let go of the penalty scale of this match, and the players can have more intense physical confrontation. In the first goal of the opening game, Jiang Pan showed great strength, which was a shock to Chandler in advance. This scene of the basketball dunk will definitely become one of the most classic shots in NBA history. Compared to those scenes of dunking rebounds, I think this one will be more shocking. Jiang Pan's power is really terrifying, and no one knows where the upper limit of his power is. After watching this attack, I think he still has mercy on Arteist. If he smashed on Arteist's face with such force, I am afraid that it would not only be as simple as breaking the bridge of the nose, at least it was a concussion start, and it was likely to be in danger of life. In the CTV5 live broadcast room, Yang Jian said seriously, even the commentator now has a cool breeze on his back. Indeed, the ball just now made everyone re-recognize the terrifying power contained in Jiang Pan's body. Before this, there may be many fans who will ask, who is stronger in Jiang Pan and O'Neal's power? But after watching this ball, everyone may have an answer in their hearts. No matter how strong O'Neal is, it's just a dunk of rebounds. Jiang Pan can also do this, and more than once. But to say that the basketball is bursting, Jiang Pan created the first person in basketball, and through such a comparison, it may be determined that Jiang Pan's strength is definitely smaller and stronger than O'Neal's. Speaking of this, Zhang Qing also smacked his lips and showed a look of amazement. As we all know, how terrifying the power of Big Shark O'Neal is, there are few people in the entire history of the NBA who can compete with his strength. And now Jiang Pan's explosive shot of holding the basketball with a buckle makes fans look forward to the answer to the power comparison between the two players. Back to the Eagles' offense. After they send the ball to the baseline, Jason Terry holds the ball and pushes it forward. Outside the three-point line, Terry and Chandler played blocking. Although Chandler can average 15 plus 10 data per game, in fact, his independent offensive ability is relatively poor, and he needs to eat cakes to score. And blocking and demolition tactics are his biggest scoring dependents. After blocking, Chandler wanted to go down, but he hit Jiang Pan's body head-on, and he was bounced back, and Jiang Pan stood in place without moving because the action was not very large, so this picture did not attract the attention of fans. As long as Chandler himself felt the terrifying power of Jiang Pan, the ordinary inner line was hit by him like this. No matter how he said it, he had to take a few steps back. However, Jiang Pan was like a nobody, not affected at all, but he was bounced away. Jason Terry bypassed Chandler's body and cleverly blocked Iverson behind. When he travels to the free throw line, he directly chooses to throw the shot. However, Iverson did not give up on his defense, but chased after him, jumping from behind to interfere. Jiang Pan also interfered with him in front of Terry. Terry raised the arc of his shot, just in time to avoid the blockade of Jiang Pan. Bang! A crisp iron sound sounded, and the ball did not hit. Because the basketball has a high curvature, it bounces farther than normal shots on the rim. Tyson Chandler looked up and saw the basketball flying towards him, and he was immediately overjoyed and ready to rush up and directly make up the buckle. He passed by Jiang Pan's side, took 2 big steps, and jumped directly. Boom! But just as he was about to get the basketball, a body suddenly flew out from behind him. The huge palm took the lead and took the rebound in front of him. Chandler was confused again. Late start, take the rebound, that's fine? His eyes stared straight at Jiang Pan, unable to say a word angrily. Don't stare at me with that look, it's useless. High school students are high school students. They can't defend themselves. They can't get the rebounds at hand. I think you really should practice in college for 2 more years before coming to the draft. Jiang Pan's words sounded in Chandler's ears, and his lungs were about to explode. In the opening round, Jiang Pan humiliated himself at both ends of the offensive and defensive ends. How can this evil breath be endured? Chandler snorted coldly, already paying attention in his heart. In the opening stage, Jiang Pan showed his tough strength as always. Tyson Chandler constantly suffers in front of him. It seems that this duel between the champion and the Tanhua is still more powerful in the strength of the champion. Charles, what do you think Tyson will do next? Kenny Smith turned to Barkley and said. At this moment, on the big screen above the court, Chandler was given a close-up, and he glared at Jiang Pan fiercely, his eyes full of anger. Seeing this scene, Barkley suddenly had a premonition, and he replied leisurely, just warmed up, maybe next, we will see a real boxing match. The ball returned to the hands of the 76ers, and Allen Iverson and Jiang Pan also played a block. This is exactly the same as the offensive tactics of Jason Terry and Tyson Chandler just now, but the effect is completely different. The blocking effect between Jiang Pan and Iverson is much better than that of their opponents. After blocking, Jiang Pan easily ran into the basket. Seeing this, Iverson threw the ball around. Jiang Pan jumped high, across Chandler. It was a one-handed empty buckle. Boom. The amazing sound of the fried frame sounded. I saw Tyson Chandler stumbled by Jiang Pan's footsteps and retreated one after another. The successive humiliations completely ignited the anger in his heart. This time, Chandler couldn't bear it, and without saying a word, he directly rushed up and threw a punch at Jiang Pan. After practicing for so long, I am waiting for this moment. Is it finally here? Chandler is menacing. Jiang Pan does not dodge, and also punches out. Hit. Hit. Just 2 rounds in the opening game, Jiang and Tyson are dry. The 2 sides don't give in to each other. I don't know whose fist will be tougher. Kenny Smith's emotions were completely excited with the punches of these 2. I didn't expect that after seeing Jiang knock out the basketball, Tyson still had the courage to do something to him. Charles Barkley was equally excited. He just loved to see such a scene. At the same time, the fans at the scene also stood up one after another to cheer, and the exciting anticipation camera finally came. For them, this ticket is definitely great value for money. It's not just a basketball game, it's a boxing fight. Sure enough, these 2 finally got their hands on it. It's a discordant spectacle for sports, but it's not a passion for the fans who watch the game. In the CTV5 live broadcast room, Yang Jian's tone was also a little excited. As he said before, he was not worried that Jiang Pan would suffer a loss. Zhang Qing was different. He stared at the screen nervously, afraid that Jiang Pan would be injured because of this matter. As Jiang Pan's #1 fan, he just wants to see Jiang Pan play healthy and healthy. At the same time, the fans of the Celestial Empire were also excited. The Battle of Mingzhou Canyon that they had been waiting for has finally begun. Brother Pan him. Brother Pan beat him to death. Don't, just do it. In front of the TV, those fans wanted to see Jiang Pan pressing Chandler to the ground and rubbing it. Under the basket, 2 fists collided blatantly in the air. 1 punch to break the river, 1 punch to break time and space. Big Dipper God Fist vs Double Realm King Fist. Next breath, click, only to hear the sound of a bone breaking. Immediately afterwards, Tyson Chandler suddenly let out a scream like killing a pig. Looking at Jiang Pan again, calmly closed his fists, there was no wave. Ah, my hand. Tyson Chandler was still howling in pain. The screams kept ringing. Victory and defeat have been scored. The sidelines again gave Chandler a close-up of his finger. Through this close-up, you can see that the 4 fingers of Tyson Chandler's right hand have been deformed and pulled down. Finger injuries are inevitable. At this moment, the players on both sides suddenly rushed up, and the vicious battle began. The 3 referees hurriedly stopped it, but the situation on the field was beyond their control. The security guards at the scene also rushed into the stadium, which separated the players on both sides. No one expected that things would develop into a situation where the 2 sides beat each other. This was originally an ordinary regular season game, but because of the conflict between Jiang Pan and Chandler, it triggered a group fight between the 2 sides. This is really crazy. Jiang Pan ends the suspense with 1 punch, Grandmaster style. But unfortunately, these damn security guards ruined a good show. And if the 2 sides fight, the scene must be extremely explosive. At the commentary table, Barkley said with some regret, Charles, you really don't care about the excitement. We don't advocate a fight in the stadium. But then again, if these two sides really do it, do you think that side will win? Kenny Smith asked Barkley. Barkley didn't even think about this question and blurted out, "Of course, the 76ers are better able to play. First of all, Jiang is a bug. He solved Tyson with an N-fold king fist, and no one else is more powerful than Tyson even if they can fight, right? And in addition to Jiang Pan, there are masters like Ron Artest sitting on the bench, and Raga Bell, Bruce Bowen, two bastards. IMHO, if you really want to fight, just the crooked dates of the Eagles, it's not even enough for them to warm up." Barkley's words are not false at all. As far as the 76ers team, compared to the strength of fighting, there may not be any opponent in the entire league that can match it. Celestial Empire, I'll go. One punch, KO. Big Dipper God Fist, VSN, Double Realm King Fist. But the result is that Jiang Pan's N-fold Realm King Fist won. Brother Pan is awesome. He is worthy of being the demon god on the court. That Tyson really thinks of himself as a boxing king, and dares to say wild words during the pre-match interview, and now he is punched like this, which is really ridiculous. Don't say it's this fake Tyson, it's the real Tyson coming. It's estimated that it's not Brother Pan's opponent. When the fans in front of the TV saw this scene, they all laughed. In the CTV5 live broadcast room, Zhang Qing also breathed a sigh of relief, and a hint of joy appeared on his face. In the end, Jiang Pan is still powerful, his strength is too great, and Chandler is too irrational. Not only did I not hurt Jiang Pan, but I hurt myself. Zhang Reasonable said leisurely. As I said just now, Chandler will not be Jiang Pan's opponent, and the facts have proved this. Just one punch, Chandler's finger is broken. If the two are allowed to fight, it is estimated that Chandler will really go to the ICU to rest. Yang Jian also echoed. As a commentator, although it is wrong to protect a player, Jiang Pan's identity is different. He is a Celestial Empire player, so the fans are also very supportive of their protection. Among these fans who are watching the game, there are two special fans, which are Jiang Pan's parents. When they saw the scene on the field, they immediately frowned. Mad, who is that kid who dares to hit Lao Tzu's son? My violent temper. Jiang Pan's father was a little angry, threw out his slippers, and smashed them towards the TV. Watch a match where someone takes the initiative to punch his son. How does this make the father endure? Dad, don't be too angry, that person is the first hand, but our son doesn't suffer a loss. Look at him like that. It is estimated that his fingers were broken by our son. Father Jiang, then you look, and don't look at whose son it is. Jiang Mu, bear-like, there is a kind of Euphemie country to beat him. Although these old couple couldn't understand basketball, they still watched all the games about Jiang Pan, and silently supported Jiang Pan's basketball career in the Celestial Empire. Episode 87. One ball and one punch flat business, 20 years of living up to the fame. On the court, Tyson Chandler looked pained, his left hand covering the fingers of his deformed right hand. As the saying goes, 10 fingers connect the heart, and the pain of drilling the heart gushes, as if thousands of ants are tearing and biting. Looking at Jiang Pan again, like a person who was fine, he didn't suffer any damage at all from the confrontation just now. Your fist technique is a failure, it is too weak. After breaking Chandler's finger with a punch, Jiang Pan shook his finger at him without mercy. Seeing this, the Eagles players immediately stepped forward to beat Jiang Pan, but were eventually stopped. Subsequently, the Eagles paramedics rushed up to check on Chandler's condition and then took him directly back to the locker room for emergency treatment. At this moment, Jiang Pan was like a god of war standing on the court, and all the fans looked at him with great admiration. It's unbelievable, I didn't expect Jiang's fist to be so hard. Under that kind of frontal impact, he didn't suffer any damage at all. He really deserves to be a player from the Celestial Empire, and he has kung fu in his hands. The more Barkley thought about it, the more incredulous it became. According to his understanding, under such a hard fight, Chandler broke his finger, and Jiang Pan would at least be injured. But now, Jiang Pan is unscathed. Only the kung fu of the Celestial Empire can explain this phenomenon, right? I think it's also true. The players of the Celestial Empire are really not easy to mess with. Between the tragic situation of Ron Artest and Tyson Chandler, I advise those players in the league to cherish life and stay away from Jiang Pan. Kenny Smith originally had doubts about the kung fu of the Celestial Empire, even though he had previously produced a world-renowned kung fu master, Bruce Lee, but he still questioned this aspect. It wasn't until he saw Jiang Pan and Tyson Chandler facing each other just now that he was convinced of the kung fu of the Celestial Empire. Jiang's fist is so powerful, he should have practiced the external attack in kung fu, right? It may also be combined with internal strength, which can achieve the effect of breaking Tyson's finger with one punch. The Celestial Empire is really a mysterious country. The two people in the commentary table did not explain basketball well, but studied the Celestial Empire Kung Fu. At this time, the emotions of the players on both sides are still quite excited. The game was also forced into a suspension. The three judges came to the technical table and watched the replay just now, to decide whether to punish the two of them. On the bench, Ron Artest looked at Jiang Pan with adoration. Jiang, your punch is also too handsome, how did you do it? Listening to this, Jiang Pan stretched out his fist and shook it in front of everyone. This punch, with 50 years of skill, of course he can't catch it. As soon as these words came out, everyone suddenly looked confused. 50 years of skill? Aren't you less than 20 years old? Iverson rolled his eyes. Ahem. Jiang Pan coughed lightly, and then said with a smile, that is to say, ordinary people need to practice for 50 years, I only need to practice for more than 10 years. And martial arts training is also talented. Looking at Jiang Pan's serious appearance, Iverson and the others were stunned by him, and they were convinced of this. Otherwise, it is impossible to explain why Jiang Pan's fist can have such great power. Jiang, I don't care how many years of skill you have. This is a basketball court. It is better to converge more or less in the future. The last time you and Arteist received a technical foul, this thing accumulated a certain number of times. It is to be automatically suspended, then it is worth the loss, 76ers coach Mike Bueling said a little helplessly. He originally thought that this handsome big boy from the Celestial Empire was an angel. Now I found out that this guy is also a bad lord, and if anyone messes with him, it is really bad luck. Mike Bueling looked at the group of players around him, each of them was not good, and he instantly felt that this head coach was doing a frightening battle. On the other side, on the bench of the Eagles, Hawks head coach Kruger had a gloomy face, and he had been counting on Tyson Chandler to limit Jiang Pan on the court. But this guy wants to start with Jiang Pan. This is good. Jiang Pan is not good, he was injured first. In front of the technical desk, the three judges watched the replay repeatedly. In the end, it was decided to give both sides a technical foul. Although it was Chandler's hand that moved first, Jiang Pan also shot back, and also broke Chandler's finger, which is already considered light. On the sidelines, Ron Arteist thought back to the round that Jiang Pan and Tyson Chandler had just had, and he was still very touched. He deeply remembered every word of Jiang Pan in his heart, and even had an enlightenment. To play, you have to think like Jiang Pan. Arteist's eyes suddenly lit up, and he took Jiang Pan's hand sharply and said, Jiang. I see, I understand, huh? Got what? Jiang Pan looked at Arteist with a blank expression. An iron fist and a glass of wine, the man's heart. One punch to kill one person, thousands of miles without leaving a line, Arteist said with an extremely serious expression. I'll go. You guy is really savvy. Jiang Pan was stunned. He was just joking with Arteist to see how he punched. I didn't expect to let this product realize what the true meaning of basketball. Is it really basketball? Ahem. Since this is the case, Jiang Pan simply became the Dihua master. Very good. You're right, the stadium is the battlefield. One goal and one punch to level the business, live up to the madness for 20 years. One goal and one punch to level the business, living up to the madness for 20 years. The words echoed in Arteist's ears. Atai's whole person was like a butterfly empowerment, and he was shocked. The boss deserves to be the boss. With such a strong basketball attainment, this is basketball philosophy, and the words are so profound. Although he couldn't fully understand the meaning of Jiang Pan, Arteist felt that this sentence was very domineering and connotative. Boss, I will understand it well. Arteist rode. Jiang Pan. In fact, Jiang Pan just wants to pretend to be forced. But I didn't expect that I would crook Arteist's basketball worldview. In short, Arteist has set his sights from now on. Since you can't be the best player on the pitch, you have to be the most unique. He wants to be one of the 10,000, the basketball king. After a few moments, the commentary is paused and the game continues. Because Jiang Pan and Chandler were each whistled for a technical foul, both teams each had a technical free throw. The two sides scored a solid penalty, and in this way, the Hawks scored their first goal of the game. After losing Tyson Chandler, the Hawks' interior line was immediately weaker. Jiang Pan began to show his strength on the offensive end, playing with unrivaled momentum. After repeated dunks, fans began to worry about the Hawks' rebounds. However, Hawks star Sharif Rahim is in good form. After Chandler retired from injury, he showed the demeanor of being in charge of the team. Consecutive mid-range jumper hits helped the Hawks maintain the score. In addition to Rahim, Jets' Jason Terry has also shown good form. Defensively against Allen Iverson, he hit 2 3-pointers in quick succession. In fact, the Eagles' outside feel is not bad today, but it's a pity that the inside line was burst by Jiang Pan. The Hawks may really be able to wrench the 76ers in the opening stages, but now Jiang Pan has no restrictions on the inside, and he can attack at will. Even if the Hawks have a good feel on the outside, they can't have Jiang Pan's offensive efficiency. In the CTV5 live broadcast room, Zhang Reasonable carefully analyzed the competition. That's right, judging from the confrontation between Tyson Chandler and Jiang Pan just now, if he can prevent 1 or 2 goals, maybe the Hawks will not fall behind. I just don't know if Chandler's finger injury is serious. If it's just a dislocation, then maybe there is a possibility of returning to the field in this game. Yang Jian also echoed. Los Angeles, United States. The Lakers just beat the Magic at home to continue their winning streak. After Kobe Bryant, O'Neal, and the others returned to the locker room, before they had time to celebrate, they learned a message. What do you say? Jiang Pan broke Tyson Chandler's finger with a punch. O'Neal looked shocked, because their third opponent in the new season is the Hawks, and O'Neal also has a match with Chandler. In that game, Chandler's defense impressed O'Neal. Although in terms of data, O'Neal still has a great advantage, but he still feels that Chien Li's strength is good, the strength is excellent, and the confrontation ability is also very strong. So when he learned the news, he showed such a shocked look. What happened? Kobe Bryant also asked. The Lakers' assistant coach picked up the tablet and played the video. The Lakers immediately fell silent when they saw it, especially the big sharks. O'Neal, although he only watched the video, he still felt the power of Jiang Pan's punch. What a terrifying power, Kobe said with a solemn expression. He now feels more and more that the new 76ers team puts a lot of pressure on them. They and the 76ers will eventually have to fight, and by then, it's going to be a tough battle. Brother, I think it is necessary for you to do strength training. This kid's strength seems to be not inferior to you at all, Bryant reminded. In the past, this phrase would have been considered a joke. Let the big shark do strength training. There is something strange in the sky how terrifying the power of the big shark is. The entire league has learned, to put it bluntly, no one under the basket can withstand him more. And now, Kobe Bryant actually proposed that he should increase strength training. Isn't this just a joke? But O'Neal was serious. He felt that the matter was necessary and imminent. He had to improve his strength before he played the 76ers. So he decided to go to the strength training after today's post-match press conference. You know, O'Neal used to be lazy in training, which also made the training mad Kobe a little uncomfortable. But today, after watching Jiang Pan and Chandler fight each other, O'Neal seemed to have been stimulated by something. To be precise, he saw the slightest threat from Jiang Pan's body. People are forced out. In order to defeat Jiang Pan, who is as strong as O'Neal, he has also begun to strengthen strength training. By the way, there's one more thing I have to say. The assistant coach spoke again. Also in this game, Jiang Ko exploded the basketball. Dunk rebounds? It's nothing, I can do it, O'Neal answered. However, as soon as his words fell, the assistant coach emphasized again, Shaquille, it's not rebounding, it's basketball. As soon as these words came out, everyone suddenly fell silent. What do you say? Say it again. It was O'Neal who was the first to break the silence, his eyes wider than just now. I mean, he dunked the basketball, the assistant coach said as he clicked on the video. In the video, Jiang Pan immediately appeared in front of everyone, through the picture of Chandler dunking the basketball. This makes the already heavy atmosphere even heavier. If anyone saw the expressions of these players now, they would think that the Lakers lost the game. At this moment, Wanelton felt a lot of pressure. He thought that no matter how hard he trained, he could not do the thing of dunking the basketball. This guy, what a monster. O'Neal couldn't help but clench his fists, then turned around and left the locker room and walked towards the training room. Originally, he also wanted to participate in the post-match press conference, but now he is immediately out of the mood, and only wants to buy time to increase his strength. In the training room, Big Shark O'Neal sweated like rain, working harder than before. A moment later, another figure appeared here. It was Peter Pan Kobe. You're here too? O'Neal was a little surprised, and he thought Kobe Bryant should be on the basketball court and practice his shooting. Kobe Bryant nodded. I heard that so far, no one has been able to block the river, and I want to be the first person to block him, so I must have a stronger ability to resist. Saying that, Kobe also joined in strength training, able to allow the Los Angeles Twins to do strength training together after the game. There is only Jiang Pan. On the pitch, the game continues. With 16 seconds left in the first quarter, the 76ers executed the final offense of the quarter. Allen Iverson controls time on the outside. With 7 seconds left, he attacked. The classic crossover was cast, directly shook Jason Terry, and then stopped the mid-range whistle. Ugh, a wonderful net scraping sound, a basketball hollow hit. 3-4-2-1. At the end of the first quarter, the 76ers, playing on the road, took a 13-point lead. Jiang Pan played the full first quarter, cutting down 18 points, 10 rebounds, and 4 blocks. This set of statistics also allowed him to set a new all-time record, becoming the first player in NBA history to score 10 plus 10 in the first quarter in 5 consecutive games. This record is still very difficult. It is not difficult to score a double in the first quarter. The difficult is a rebounding double. With these top interior linemen in the league at the moment, they only get a dozen rebounds in a whole game. And Jiang Pan was able to get 10 plus rebounds in the first quarter. Modern basketball, there is an ancient Chamberlain-level data brush. Episode 88. Bow. I watched the game, I think your heart is stuffed. During the intermission, news about Tyson Chandler came out of the Hawks locker room at the back. After the Hawks team doctor's examination, Tyson Chandler fractured 4 fingers on his right hand, dislocated 1 finger, and could not continue playing. WTF. I can't imagine that Tyson Chandler's injury is so serious. When the commentators Kenny Smith and Charles Barkley learned the news, they both looked shocked. The picture of the fist revisited in their minds. With a head-on punch, Jiang Pan didn't have anything to do, but Tyson Chandler was injured so badly. This would not have been possible without the crushing of absolute strength and the comparison of absolute bone hardness. You must know that Tyson Chandler is not weak, although not as terrifying as O'Neal, but the tonnage is at least at the top level of the league. But such a strong guy couldn't withstand Jiang Pan's punch, which shows how terrifying this beast from the Celestial Empire is. Charles, I now fully believe that Jiang has practiced Celestial Empire Kung Fu, and the power of this punch is beyond my comprehension. The look of shock on Kenny Smith's face could not fade for a long time. His eyes stared directly at Jiang Pan, and he was more and more unable to see through this humanoid beast this year. On the bench of the 76ers, Ron Artest was also shocked when he heard the news. Hearing Tyson Chandler's tragic situation, and thinking about his heads-up match with Jiang Pan at that time, he suddenly felt afraid for a while. "Boss, thank you for your mercy," Artist said immediately. Jiang Pan waved his hand indifferently. As Artist said, the last time Jiang Pan and Artist played a random basketball game, Jiang Pan was closed. If he had shown the strength to fight Tyson Chandler, Artist would probably still be lying in a hospital bed. What a strong force, it actually hurt Tyson Chandler like this. Yes, it's simply terrible. To end the fight, all it takes is one punch. This is that Tyson Chandler is physically stronger. If he is replaced by a thin player, it is estimated that the entire palm will be broken. At the scene, many fans talked about it, and they had a new understanding of the power of Jiang Pan. The camera was given to the Hawks bench, and head coach Kruger looked livid, and he already knew the fate of the game after learning from Chandler. Unless a miracle strikes, they simply cannot achieve victory. Moments later, the interbreak ended and the second quarter of the game began. The Eagles, who lost Tyson Chandler, were slaughtered by Jiang Pan on the inside, and no one could pose a threat to him. Although Sharif Rahim and Jason Terry are in good form, their shots floating outside can't change the status quo at all. At the beginning of the second quarter, Jiang Pan and Allen Iverson took turns to exert their strength, and under the strong attack of the A combination, the Hawks' defense was shattered by the impact. Halfway through the second quarter, the 76ers had a nearly 30-point lead. The game was played again, and it looks like the Philadelphia 76ers are going to have another big win. The combined attack of Jiang and A is too incomprehensible. Just play with such momentum. There will definitely be a place for them in this year's finals, Kenny Smith kept explaining. At the end of the first half, the gap between the two sides was stretched to 30 points, and the game was almost a death sentence. After the start of the second half, the Hawks chose a tactical waiver, and head coach Kruger directly replaced the full bench. Coach Boulang saw that his opponent had given up the game, so he also replaced all the main players and replaced them with a full substitute lineup. Ron Artest has been substituted for his first game with the 76ers, and he will get plenty of playing time. Artest showed great dynamism as soon as he debuted, and he played both ends of the offensive and defensive ends. Although his offensive technique was rough, he dared to break through and kill and achieved good results. Mike Boulang silently looked at Artest's performance, and a hint of satisfaction appeared under his eyes. It seems that the team still has a role to play in signing him. The second half of the game was completely reduced to garbage time. Eventually, the game is over. 1-2-2-9-7. The Philadelphia 76ers defeated the Atlanta Hawks without bloodshed, continuing their winning streak for the new season. In the whole game, Jiang Pan once again achieved a halftime clock-in, and he scored quasi-triple-double statistics of 45 points, 25 rebounds, and 8 blocks. Allen Iverson had 28 points, 16 assists, and 3 steals. Uncle Moo scored 10 points, 12 rebounds, and 3 blocks. Tonight is another night for the 76ers twins, and the new pair has played an absolutely explosive performance since the start of the game, leaving a very deep impression on fans. After the game, the reporter of TNT ran directly to Jiang Pan and interviewed him after the game. "Jiang, you made a move with Tyson Chandler in the game and made him pay a terrible price. Before this game, Tyson said that the stadium is the battlefield. Do you agree with that?" Faced with the reporter's question, Jiang Pan nodded and replied very affirmatively. "Tyson is right, the stadium is the battlefield. Whether it's playing or boxing, I'm always there for you." As soon as this remark came out, the reporter raised his eyebrows. "If you want to box, feel free to accompany you." Jiang Pan's last words were actually addressed to players throughout the league, and he accepted anyone's boxing challenge. Of course, those who challenge him must also be prepared to pay a terrible price, and Tyson Chandler is the best example. Meanwhile, in the Pistons locker room, this Celestial Empire center is really arrogant, but then again, this guy does have a certain strength. "Ben, did you see Jiang's confrontation with Tyson in the match?" Jerry Starkhouse asked Ben Wallace. "I see it clearly, but what I care more about is the interview after the game." The camera twists, and a muscular man with a blackface explosive head appears. "Big Ben, Ben Wallace." Big Ben sentenced to Jiang Pan, "Whether playing ball or boxing, I will accompany you at any time." I still remember it vividly. As we all know, Big Ben is definitely one of the representatives of the hardliners on the court. Tough, tough, tough is synonymous with his credo. Once this guy is annoyed, he will also do it at any time. As an interior player, although Big Ben is not dominant in height, only his height, but the strength of iron and blood, and tough style have forged his defensive skills. He started with his tough defensive ability and persistent game passion, and is now a famous league. This season, Dabin has been able to give away 3.5 more blocks per game, ranking second in the league after Jiang Pan. It is worth mentioning that in the next game, the opponent of the Detroit Pistons is the Philadelphia 76ers. This is also why they are so concerned about Jiang Pan at this moment. Since Jiang Pan said something like that in the post-match interview, Big Ben's heart directly had the idea of going head-to-head with him. For Big Ben, the next bout is not just a simple regular season match, but a boxing match. In today's match, Jiang Pan and Tyson Chandler have already had a boxing match, but it is not too enjoyable to watch. The process was so short that with just one punch, Chandler couldn't continue. "Jerry, who do you think will have harder fists between me and that kid?" Saying that, Big Ben took out his fist and gestured twice in front of Starkhouse. "I have to say that Dabin's boxing technique is still very methodical, and it looks like it has been practiced. Ben, you wouldn't want to do it with him too, would you? Stackhouse asked with some surprise. Then it depends on the situation. If this kid is not honest, I don't mind teaching him a lesson. Let him know that the NBA is not a place where he can go wild. And you heard that kid's interview just now, it's just crazy. Big Ben said more and more, twisted his neck, and made a click sound. He couldn't wait to fight with Jiang Pan now. Harder than anyone's fist, Jiang Pan returned to the dressing room, and the first thing he did was take out his mobile phone. There was a text message on the mobile phone. Jiang Pan glanced at the number, although there was no note, but this number he was very familiar with. It was Scarlett John News. Puh. I watched the game today. What game? I want to be stuffed with your heart. Looking at the message sent by Scarlett, the corners of Jiang Pan's mouth couldn't help but rise slightly. This terrier plays 6 Since you miss me so much, you might as well come to me. Jiang Pan immediately replied with a message, and just as he was about to put down his mobile phone to rinse, the prompt sound of the message sounded again. Jiang Pan looked at it, or Scarlett John News. It seems that this girl has been waiting for him to reply to the message, and now she immediately came back. I've been waiting for you at your doorstep for a long time. Come back soon. Stinky treasure, waiting for me at my doorstep? Jiang Pan was stunned, and after seeing this news, Jiang Pan quickly rinsed, and then put away his backpack and rushed to the airport. I'm in a hurry to go back beforehand. Before leaving, Jiang Pan left this sentence. The teammates looked at his anxious appearance, and they were all stunned. What can be urgent in the middle of the night? However, when Jiang Pan left, his face was full of joy, so it should not be a bad thing. Think about it. After Jiang Pan came to the airport, sure enough, someone sent him a ticket, and the time was just right. More than 2 hours later, the plane landed at Philadelphia Airport, and Jiang Pan rushed directly back to the apartment arranged by the team. In the seat in the doorway, a woman is looking down and playing with her mobile phone. Under the illumination, the slender body and the hair that are inadvertently ruffled are particularly moving. How long have you been waiting here? Jiang Pan's voice suddenly sounded, and Scarlett Johnson trembled slightly. She hadn't seen Jiang Pan for a few days, and when she heard this voice, she was immediately a little excited. Scarlett Johnson stood up and showed a wicked smile to Jiang Pan. It's been so long with you to do your hair once. Hearing this answer, Jiang Pan was suddenly speechless. I'm afraid I didn't learn it all from Jessica. Gotta get it. Stop it. You hurry up and come in. Jiang Pan opened the door, and Scarlett John directly took Jiang Pan's arm and entered the house together. More precisely, she was hanging on Jiang Pan's body. Jiang Pan also shook his head slightly. This Scarlett is clingy. Scarlett John is a man who has traveled thousands of miles. Or rather, it should be across the ocean to send P. The two ordered takeout at home, and Jiang Pan decided to show her hand in front of Scarlett to show her the charm of a man in the Celestial Empire. Jiang Pan prepared some vegetables and meat, and then made a tomato pot base and cooked it in a hot pot. In fact, Jiang Pan is a person who is not spicy or unhappy. But most Westerners do not eat spicy, so he has to agree to himself. Jiang, you still cook? I have to say that Jiang Pan's hand surprised Scarlett. I'll have more. Eat quickly. I'll teach you slowly. After eating the hot pot that is not spicy, Jiang Pan feels that there is no taste, but Scarlett Johnson eats with relish. Although it was her first attempt, her taste buds had already been conquered. After all, the food and culture of the Celestial Empire are both broad and profound, and they can be compared with those burgers and pizzas in the United States. By the way, have you ever made this dish for her? I mean Jessica. Scarlett suddenly stopped swallowing and asked Jiang Pan. Sure enough, women cared about this. Jiang Pan shook his head. You are really the first woman to taste the hot pot that I personally cooked. Really? That means I took away your first time. After hearing this answer, Scarlett John was overjoyed. Jiang Pan's first time in that regard was taken away by her best friend Jessica Alba. For this reason, Scarlett John was sullen for a long time, and now, she finally took the first hot pot of Jiang Pan. Jiang Pan was speechless again. In his opinion, this is just a simple hot pot, and there is even the first time to say it. Women are really strange creatures, and sometimes you don't know what they're thinking. Is it delicious? Jiang Pan looked at Scarlett's continuous swallowing, and couldn't help but ask. This is the most delicious food I've ever had, but the taste is a little big, and it's all the smell on the body. Scarlett sniffed her clothes, although they were fragrant, but the clothes were stained with food, and asked, how could it be strange? Then go wash after eating, Jiang Pan said casually. Scarlett John suddenly stretched her face over and sniffed Jiang Pan's clothes. You are also contaminated with this smell, so why not wash it together? Water can be saved. Scarlett laughed. The next day, Jiang Pan woke up and looked at Scarlett next to him, and he suddenly thought of something. The entertainment company he opened is now only Zhang Hanshao, a singer. Why not recruit potential stocks like Scarlett John News? A moment later, Scarlett Johnson also slowly woke up, and Jiang Pan's eyes were looking at her motionlessly. What's wrong? Is there something on my face? Scarlett's languid voice sounded like a kitten that had just woken up. Baby. Not long ago I opened an entertainment company. Do you want to come? Jiang Pan asked directly. Entertainment companies? Are you sure? Alright, then my future will all weigh on you. Scarlett Johnson decisively agreed. Episode 89. Talking to Scarlett about a business of several hundred million. Bodyguard artist debuts today. Jiang Pan was not surprised that Scarlett John would agree to come down. After all, with the current relationship between the two of them, it is strange that Scarlett does not agree. What's more, Jiang Pan's popularity is hot now, and his entertainment company must bring its own traffic, which is no better for the development exhibition of newcomers. Although it was established not long ago and the scale is also very small, Scarlett John believes that with Jiang Pan's ability, it will definitely make this company bigger and stronger, and there will be no good resources at that time. Scarlett John in her arms was like a kitten, resting her head on Jiang Pan's chest, and Jiang Pan caressed her hair. Jiang, I think you can sign more potential stocks and cultivate them well, Scarlett John said leisurely. This sentence reminded Jiang Pan. Yes, he doesn't have to grab popular traffic artists with well-developed entertainment companies. As a traverser, the biggest golden finger is to predict the future. He could have signed those new people and nurtured them. This method is not only low cost, but also not risky at all, because the people he chooses must be artists with great development in the future, so this is a profitable deal. Jiang Pan thought about it. In 2001, there were still those artists worth recruiting into the company, and Jiang Pan's mind quickly searched, and familiar faces kept emerging. Among the people he thought of were the walking CD Lin Shuijia, Mildred Taylor Swift, and so on. Thinking of Taylor, she seems to be 15 years old. Jiang Pan already has a plan in his heart. If he has the opportunity, he must recruit this group of artists to expand his entertainment company. This is the first step in expanding his entertainment empire. The two hugged each other and talked a lot about the company's future development plan. To Jiang Pan's surprise, Scarlett John's son had her own ideas, and she even made a lot of good proposals to Jiang Pan. When talking about happiness, Jiang Pan also talked with Scarlett about hundreds of millions of ancestral business. The next day, Jiang Pan arrived at the stadium early. The moisturizing of these 2 days made his complexion look very good. Tonight, the Philadelphia 76ers, who have won 5 straight games, will be sitting at home to face their 6th opponent of the season, the Detroit Pistons. This game is also attracting attention. Compared to its predecessors, the Detroit Pistons are one of the strongest teams in the East, with stars like Jerry Starkhouse and Ben Wallace in the team. They also have a very good record in the new season, currently 4-1, sitting 3rd in the East. The biggest attraction of this game is Jiang Pan versus Ben Wallace. Big Ben, for Jiang Pan, this is definitely a challenge. Compared to the inside players he has met before, Ben Wallace is obviously much tougher than those inside linemen. Moreover, this game, Jiang Pan must also win, because after this match, the second week's best of the week will be judged in order to get the reward of the system. Jiang Pan must not only lead the team to win the game, but also ensure that he can continue to win the Best Player of the Week award. Before playing against the Pistons, Jiang Pan had only faced one opponent who had entered the best defensive team, and that was Wolf King Kevin Garnett. However, following the correct historical trajectory, Big Ben will also be in the all-defensive team this season. Throughout history, Big Ben's defensive ability has also been far above Kevin Garnett. For DPOY, the Best Defensive Player award, tied for the first place in history with Uncle Moo. Big Ben in 2001 has shown the potential of the best defensive player, and now, in the rebounding and block lists, Big Ben ranks 2nd in the league, second only to Jiang Pan. In these games of the new season, the big man averaged 14 rebounds and 3.5 blocks per game. Jiang Pan averages 22 rebounds and 7 blocks per game. Although in the comparison of data, Jiang Pan completed the crushing of the opponent, the duel between these two tough guy men is still quite worth looking forward to. Not only those fans, but even Jiang Pan himself is looking forward to the showdown with Big Ben. So far, he hasn't found any interior player in the league who can compete with him. He hoped that Dabin was a qualified opponent. At least let him not be so relaxed. Jiang, look good. By the way, you were so anxious to come back that day. What happened? At this time, Iverson also came to the stadium. He thought he was the first to come, but he did not expect to see Jiang Pan as soon as he came in. So, he suddenly thought of the day before yesterday, so he asked curiously, "Goddess meeting, how's that?" "Envy?" Jiang Pan replied bluntly. Hearing this answer, Iverson suddenly had a black line on his face. He should have guessed that this was the case. This is not self-deprecation. Don't envy, I have a wife. Iverson pouted, beating to death and not admitting it. Obviously he was envious in his heart to death. Forget it, don't talk about this. By the way, why did you come so early? Wouldn't it be because you're going to face Ben Wallace tonight, right? Iverson said with a smile. Nervous? Jiang Pan smiled and said, no one in this alliance can let me understand these 2 words yet. Big Ben is good, but what you should be thinking about is, how long can he withstand? Boy, Jiang Pan's answer did not disappoint Iverson. It was still that familiar taste. At 7 p.m., the 76ers home arena was full. Every game of the new season, their home stadium is full, and even if the ticket price is expensive, it still can't stop the enthusiasm of the fans. Guys, all excited, let's break the undefeated golden body of 76ers today. At this time, in the changing room of the away team, Pistons coach Rick Carlisle is clapping his hands to encourage his players. Whether the team is strong or not, the team state is not strong, not only the player's problem, the coach also plays a key role. They are well prepared for this game. The goal is to kill the 76ers and become the first team to defeat them. Coach, rest assured, we will definitely give it our all. Ben Wallace immediately chimed in. Tonight, Big Ben is full of fighting spirit, and the explosive head feels a little more standing. Obviously he is ready to go head-to-head with Jiang Pan. Moments later, players from both sides came on the pitch and began their pre-match warm-ups. The reporters at TNT are very competent, and pre-match interviews are a job they have to do. The reporter came to Coach Carlisle, and after a polite greeting, it went straight to the point. Coach Carlisle, you played really well this season, and the Pistons look competitive in the new season. But today's game is a very different opponent, and they haven't lost a single game since the start of the game. The 76ers with 5 straight wins are gaining momentum, and you're definitely hitting the gun. Are you confident of winning this game? Coach Carlisle listened carefully to the reporter's words, and then immediately replied, you are right. I must also admit that they are a very good team, especially in the starting lineup. I feel that they are stronger than the Lakers. But in my opinion, they are not invincible, and they have a fatal weakness, which is the second team. We made sufficient tactical deployment today, so even if we hit the muzzle, we are confident that we will block the muzzle and let them blow up. Carlisle's answer was confident, because they're really well prepared, and the Pistons are good overall. He feels he has a chance to beat the 76ers. Can you tell us about your tactics? The reporter continued to ask. First of all, what we have to do is try not to be pulled too far apart by the opponent when the starting lineup is matched. The second and most crucial step is our second squad. As soon as we go to the rotation stage, our opportunity comes. Our second squad is definitely better than them, and this is our best chance to overtake the score and win the game. Coach Carlisle revealed some tactical arrangements, which he believes are foolproof. And the shortcomings of the 76ers are all on the bright side. There is no need to hide. Later, the reporter walked up to Ben Wallace and also interviewed him. Ben, tonight you are going to face Jiang Pan. His performance in these games is very vigorous. He can be called a behemoth on the inside. Are you ready to face the behemoth? Listening to the reporter's words, Big Ben didn't say a word, and directly made his signature action in front of the reporter, showed his biceps. Jiang is indeed a tough player, I like him, but you call him an interior behemoth? With my consent? Today, I will let him know what it means to be a real hardliner. Speaking of this, the reporter can clearly feel the powerful fighting intent that bursts out from the big itself. That kind of striking combat power can only have such a reaction when encountering a real opponent. It seems that tonight's basket will stage another vicious battle. After the interview with Big Ben, the reporter came to this side of the 76ers and also interviewed Mike Brang. Coach Brang, I interviewed Coach Carlisle just now and he said that they are fully prepared for this game and have also revealed some tactical arrangements like me. But sorry, I can't tell you that. But I think they seem to have a chance to win the game. What do you think? No kidding, why are they? Mike Bueling looked disdainful and said what tactical deployment, that is, to him. He did not want to listen. After winning 5 consecutive victories, the morale of the 76ers team is like a rainbow, which can be described as people blocking and killing people, and Buddha blocking and killing Buddha. Even the head coach is starting to inflate a little now. With Iverson and Jiang Pan, he didn't need to think about any tactics at all. As long as he put the ball in the hands of the two of them, the problem would naturally be solved. So, you think they don't have a chance? The reporter asked again. However, Mike Bueling shook his head and said, if there is a chance, it must be 100 years later. I have to say that this answer can be described as inflated to the extreme. In the future, it will simply call the 76ers expansion team. Finally, the reporter came to Jiang Pan. Jiang, tonight's showdown between you and Big Ben will be the focus of the audience. And just now Big Ben also said that he will compete with you, who is tougher, so you must be prepared for his challenge. It's certainly good that he has such courage. Jiang Pan nodded with satisfaction, but another one who is not afraid of death. Tell him, let the horse come, I promise not to kill him. Jiang Pan said indifferently. These two masters and apprentices are simply more arrogant than the other. The reporter had a feeling that he even felt that Mike Bueling was brought by Jiang Pan. If you think about it, these games are also quite interesting. Jiang Pan first met Ron Artest, then Tyson Chandler, and today Big Ben. These three came to the dry fight, and Jiang Pan was immediately interested. At the time of the interview just now, Artest happened to hear the content of their interview. At this time, he said to Jiang Pan, Jiang, leave that guy to me, and you can play with peace of mind. Jiang Pan was slightly stunned. He glanced at Artest. It seemed that this warmongerant was also aroused by the desire to fight. Ron, since you said so, well, you will start today. Artest and Jiang Pan's conversation was overheard by Mike Bueling. As soon as he had a wit, he suddenly issued this order and temporarily changed the starter. The change was too sudden, and Artest also felt that the surprise came too quickly, and he did not expect that he could still play as a starter. Don't be too happy. I didn't let you play the starter for you to go up and play. Remember, you have only one mission, which is to protect the river. That's why Coach Breo let Artest start. He knew what kind of player Artest was, and it was fitting for him to protect Jiang Pan. He has already regarded Artest as Jiang Pan's personal bodyguard. No problem. I will definitely protect the river. Artest immediately agreed. He just wanted to touch Big Ben. If you do a good job, I will apply to the management to pay you a second salary, your bodyguard fee. Larry Bueling whispered in Artest's ear. As soon as these words came out, Arteist's eyes lit up and became even more energetic. A few minutes later, the pre-game warm-up ended and the starting lineup of both sides was released. Pistons starter, point guard, Chalky Atkins. Quantile, Michael Curry. Small forward, Jerry Starkhouse. Power forward, Clifford Robinson. Center, Ben Wallace. 76ers starter, point guard, Allen Iverson. Quantile, Bruce Bowen. Small forward, Ron Artest. Power forward, Dikembe Mutombo. Center, Jiang Pan. The match starts with players from both sides entering. In the commentary box, Kenny Smith and Charles Barkley were stunned when they saw Artest start, which is different from the starting lineup announced before the game. Charles, what's going on? Did we get our data wrong? Kenny Smith looked at the information in his hand, and the first invention on the information was clearly written with the name of Raja Bell. The data can't be wrong, maybe the 76ers have temporarily changed their starting lineup. Speaking of this, Barkley suddenly realized something. Let Artest play the starter. It seems that this game will be full of gunpowder in the opening stage. Episode 90, see your dad? Don't look at your dad? You can look at your dad or not. Crazy Ben. In this game, the Philadelphia 76ers chose a temporary change, and Ron Artest replaced Lagerballe and entered the team's starting lineup. Let's look forward to what kind of story will happen. At the commentary table, Kenny Smith said leisurely, Artest's debut surprised all the fans, and no one knew what the purpose of Coach Blang's arrangement was. Pistons players were also surprised to see Artest on the field. What's the situation? Their starter changed. Jerry Starkhouse said with a frown. There's nothing to worry about. This guy is just a role player. He used to work as a backup with the Bulls, and he was bought out some time ago. Ben Wallace didn't take Artest seriously at all. A player who was bought out by the team, to put it ugly, is abandoned. What can such a player do? At that time, when the 76ers signed Artest, it was questioned by many fans. Tonight, Coach Buelang let him start, which made the fans scratch their heads. What does Mike Buelang think? Let this guy start? That's it. In addition to being physically stronger, what are the advantages of this product? Stir up trouble? Mike Buelang doesn't want to cultivate this kind of color, right? He seems to have no room to cultivate at all, and the technology is still so rough. I think it's better not to speculate first. Mike Buelang must have his reason for doing this. Let's take a look first. Maybe there will be some special arrangements. The fans at the scene were talking about it. At the same time, inside the CTV5 live broadcast room of the Celestial Empire, it was a surprise that Artest was the starter in this game. This should be a temporary decision for Coach Buelang, because from the information from the front, the 76ers starting lineup is still the same as before, but what we see now is not the case. Then again, what is the purpose of Coach Buelang's arrangement? What do you think? Sukun said to Zhang reasonable. Zhang Chun pondered for a moment, and even he didn't think of a good answer. I don't quite understand it, but the little thing about Artest is his defense and his positivity on the pitch. But these 2 points, Lagerballe also has, if you have to compare, that is, Artest's body is stronger, and there is really no advantage in other than that. Speaking of offense, although Lagerballe's offensive ability is very poor, Artest is not much better, not to mention the 76ers starting lineup, and there is no need for Artest to attack. It is enough to have Iverson and Jiang Pan. So the specific reason for the change of formation, you still have to watch the game. It has to be said that Larry Buelang's tumultuous operation has made many senior basketball workers a little puzzled. Of course, they don't think about the real intention. Larry Buelang is actually simply asking Artest to protect Jiang Pan's thoughtfulness. Beep. The referee's whistle blew and the two sides made a mid-circle jump. Jiang Pan and Big Ben faced each other, and Big Ben glared at him directly. Jiang, I will let you understand what true power is. Big Ben showed his biceps again, and he really looked very strong and belonged to the kind of player who didn't talk much. He doesn't spray too high-level trash talk, but he is very fierce, like a fierce tiger. But today, Daben changed his normal state and took the initiative to spray garbage words on Jiang Pan, and Jiang Pan suddenly felt that this product was fierce and somewhat middle too. He couldn't help but smile and said, "Look at your father." Big Ben was stunned for a moment. This is an NBA battlefield, and I never dreamed that Jiang Pan would play with him. Of course, he couldn't let Jiang Pan succeed, and subconsciously looked away. "Don't look at your dad?" Jiang Pan smiled again and said again. Hearing this, Big Ben was instantly embarrassed, and immediately moved his gaze back. After looking at Jiang Pan, Big Ben felt that he had been tricked, and his eyes became wandering. "I don't know if I should watch it or not. You can see your dad or not." Jiang Pan pointed to himself and reminded him. Big Ben reacted and was blown up on the spot. Joining Jiang Pan is purely playing with yourself as a monkey? How can this be tolerated? Big Ben just wanted to fight back, but the referee threw the ball into the air. Big Ben immediately exerted his whole body strength and jumped violently. However, Jiang Pan was with his height and arm length, and he just jumped lightly to get the ball. Big Ben has a strong ability to move, and after he landed, he quickly retreated. Because he knew what Jiang Pan would do after the opening, he cut off Jiang Pan's opportunity to attack quickly in advance. Seeing this, the corners of Jiang Pan's mouth couldn't help but rise slightly. It seems that the other party has indeed put a lot of effort into dealing with them, but so what? It's just to prevent the opening fast attack. and there are many ways for them to score. Jiang Pan came to the position and stuck his position, and Iverson immediately gave the ball to the first attack in the past opening. Jiang Pan vs Big Ben, Kami Jiang. The home fans immediately stood up and shouted encouragement to Jiang Pan. Not only the scene, but also all the fans who are watching this match in front of the TV are looking forward to the strong showdown between the two. After receiving the ball, Jiang Pan sat on Demon with his back, and then directly exerted a strong force. I saw Jiang Pan lower his center of gravity, and his back shoulder instantly exerted force, and the huge force was pressed against Big Ben's body, and suddenly made a muffled sound. Boom. The first time, Big Ben snorted, and was directly hit and took 2 steps back. Feeling the powerful power of Jiang Pan, Daben's whole person was shocked. He had not yet made adjustments, and Jiang Pan's second collision hit one after another. Bang. The second time, Big Ben took a few steps back in succession and retreated directly to the basket. At this time, Jiang Pan was actually able to complete the attack, but he did not rush to dunk the ball, but continued to target Daben. Boom. In the third stroke, the big book with an unstable center of gravity was directly knocked out of the bottom line. Looking at the big book in the end, Jiang Pan calmly turned around and raised the ball and dunked violently. But at the moment when he completed the dunk, Big Ben quickly got up and pushed Jiang Pan, but he was not able to prevent Jiang Pan from completing the dunk. Beep. The referee's whistle blew a foul on Big Ben, and Jiang Pan was given a chance to add a penalty. Because Big Ben pushed Jiang Pan just now, Arteist, who saw this scene, immediately rushed over and blocked Jiang Pan's face. Coach Bolang's purpose in letting him play as a starter is to protect Jiang Pan. Now that Big Ben pushed Jiang Pan in front of him, of course he had to stand up in time, but Jiang Pan hugged him and did not let Arteist continue. After all, Big Ben's blow did not cause any harm to himself, but he also paid for a foul himself. He didn't want Arteist to get a technical foul at the start. Jiang's power is really terrifyingly tight. He actually knocked over Big Ben just by using his back to single. It seems that in this first round of the battle, Jiang Pan has gained the advantage, Kenny Smith said in surprise. Not only did he knock over Big Ben, but it also made him lose his mind and pay for an undeserved foul. Although I didn't play the opening empty catch, this result is more perfect. Flying Pig Barkley added. The strong start of 2+1 made the atmosphere of the scene immediately hot. Big Ben stood under the basket with a dull expression, and at this time, his heart was terrified. He never expected that Jiang Pan's power would be so terrifying. You know, although he is not tall, he has always been proud of his strength. With his strength, he can sustain several rounds even against Shark O'Neal. But this time against Jiang Pan for the first time, he found that he couldn't even carry a round. And speaking of Jiang Pan, after controlling Arteist, Jiang Pan looked down at Daben, who was half a head shorter than himself. Jiang Pan shook his head and said, "You are too short, or you jumped too low." Big Ben. He was humiliated when he jumped the ball, and now he is mocked by Jiang Pan for being short and jumping low. My own mother was humiliated and violently killed by Jiang Pan. But this is indeed the case. Most of the height is only 2.06 meters, and the bounce is also crushed by Jiang Pan. Even if his strength is excellent, it is completely given for nothing in front of Jiang Pan. At the same time, the fans on the other side of the Celestial Empire immediately boiled when they saw this scene. I'll go. Brother Pan is awesome, haha. What is power? That's power. Awesome people are the same no matter who they are with. What about Big Ben? Still can't withstand the power of Brother Pan? This ball is really a bunker. I don't know how O'Neal will feel when he sees it. In the CTV5 live broadcast room, Zhang Li and Su Kun were also shocked by Jiang Pan's attack. I originally thought that Jiang Pan would not be so easy to fight Big Ben. After all, Big Ben's strength is really strong. But I didn't expect that Jiang Pan would directly knock him over with 3 heads. Su Kun's tone was full of excitement. Jiang Pan has once again shown us what is called invincible strength. In fact, who is stronger and weaker between these two people has already divided the victory and defeat in this round. This is the crushing of absolute strength, and Daben is a player who relies on strength, and when his strength is crushed, he really can't play anything. Counting Big Ben, this is already the 6th center that Jiang Pan has won in the NBA, and a reasonable face is also full of joy. Although this is the first round of the opening, in Zhang Reason's opinion, the two win and lose, and Daben definitely cannot be Jiang Pan's opponent. Los Angeles, United States. The entire Lakers are watching the game, and now they see the Philadelphia 76ers as their #1 rival. When everyone saw Ben Wallace on top of Jiang Pan, their pupils all shrank sharply, and everyone fell silent. O'Neal is even more frowned. He usually likes to giggle, but now he can't laugh at all. Apart from you and Jiang, there are no other beasts in the alliance, Bryant muttered. Immediately, he looked up at O'Neal. Shaquille, can you do it with Ben Wallace? At this time, everyone looked at O'Neal, waiting for his answer. O'Neal was silent for a while, and then said with some hesitation, "I'm not sure, because I have never done it against him before. Maybe I can if I want to topple him, but it's definitely not going to be that easy." O'Neal's words are even an indirect admission that his strength is not as good as Jiang Pan. This guy's ability is really beyond our imagination, and what's even more frightening is that this is his first season in the league, and with his talent, there is definitely room for growth. I think we have to prepare in advance, especially you Shaquille. Between you and Jiang Pan, sooner or later there will be a victory or defeat. Lakers coach Zen Master Phil Jackson said seriously. This is also the first time since coaching this Lakers team that he feels an opponent who can really pose a threat to the team. During this time, I have started strength training, but I can't guarantee that I will be able to suppress him when I fight him. It was the first time O'Neal had said something like this. Even when he faced the other three of the Big Four, O'Neal didn't feel such pressure. O'Neal looked at the schedule and saw that his first game with the Philadelphia 76ers happened to be a Christmas game. It seems that this Christmas is not so good. Back in the game, on the sidelines, Pistons coach Carlisle looked a little heavy. Before the start of the game, he thought of various possibilities, and also felt that it was difficult for Big Ben to completely withstand Jiang Pan alone. But what he didn't expect was that Ben Wallace couldn't survive a round. They are well prepared before the game, and if they want to win, the first thing is to make sure that the starting lineup is not too far apart. The only hope was pinned on Ben Wallace, but now it seems that this dream is about to come to naught. Jiang Pan's words still echoed in Big Ben's ears, and he became even more angry. It's true to say he's short, but he's under tall as an interior player. But to say that he doesn't jump high, it would be excessive. Big Ben's bouncing ability is still excellent, but it's not as good as Jiang Pan. Big Ben's eyes narrowed, radiating a fierce color. He had already made the decision to come up with his strongest defense against Jiang Pan. Subsequently, Jiang Pan walked to the free throw line and made additional penalties. He glanced up at the basket, then slowly shot out. His strength was still a little greater, and the basketball smashed into the neck of the basket and immediately bounced out. Big Ben stuck Uncle Moo behind him under the basket, staring directly at the falling basketball, and immediately jumped and rushed after seeing the opportunity. At the same time, Jiang Pan also rushed in from the free throw line. He jumped high, took the first step to intercept the basketball, and then flew between Uncle Moo and Big Ben, and dunked the ball into the basket. Boom. Oh my god. This is Jiang's exclusive free throw deduction, 2+2. We don't seem to have seen this in a while. On the commentary table, Kenny Smith immediately exclaimed after seeing this buckle. Jiang's ball is really atrocious. He couldn't help but detain Ben Wallace, even Deaconberg. Jiang Pan, who has become serious, simply doesn't even recognize his own people, Barkley said with a smile. After landing, Jiang Pan patted Uncle Moo's shoulder. Even if he comforted him, he didn't mean it. Who let Uncle Moo be in the position with Ben? At the critical moment, he couldn't care so much, so he simply snapped it together. Uncle Moo did not pay attention to it. This is not a shame, anyway. It is not separated by the opponent. In the opening round, Big Ben was first fouled by a top flip deduction. Now he has been rebuttoned on the top of his head, which is the most humiliating moment of his career. He vowed in his heart to raise the intensity of the game to the strongest level.